I went from zero to making over 10K a month profit on Amazon FBA within just 6 months of starting, and I've also helped dozens of sellers do the same. In this video, I interviewed 10 of them to share their best tips for success and mistakes you need to avoid to win selling on Amazon FBA in 2025. Even if you're a complete beginner starting from scratch, working a 9-to-5 job or in college, let's get right into it.
So, Steven, how much you sell on Amazon in August?
I did $700,000 in August.
Which is absolutely bonkers. You said right around 550 trailing 30 days right now. It's also crazy, man. So literally 2 years ago, we were talking about probably about this week, you joined the coaching firm.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously insanity, obviously, since this is like the best, student video I've ever had pretty much basically. So, but good to have you here at the Crib in Miami.
Good to be back.
This week, specifically right here. So, very good, man. But do you kind of want to basically fill everyone on, just your story, your origin stories in Amazon seller? What made you want to get into this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be an eBay seller back in the day. I did that for about 10 years. And I was moving to Florida with a girl I was dating at the time. And I had to figure out how to keep reselling, but I couldn't move all my inventory from eBay down to Florida.
Because you had to hold it yourself.
Exactly.
Because there's no app. Yeah, okay.
So I stumbled upon Amazon, and I was like, holy crap, this has so much potential. Started flipping books, graduated to retail arbitrage, went up to OA, and then OA's just been a straight line up for the most part, and just scaling it.
Yeah, and so you're very similar to me, where you had a reselling experience because you're 23.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just turned 26, but we've been reselling stuff for a while. I think so many people like that, where they had a natural proclivity to like flipping stuff and selling stuff, for example. eBay, used books, sneakers was another big one where you had done it for a while, but you basically found Amazon as like the right vehicle to like really take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I saw the scalability in Amazon. Like eBay, you can definitely scale, but like I can just send in Amazon, and like that is literally a quarter or half the job is like the back end fulfillment. And by having Amazon do all that, it made it free for me to source more and find more products. Yeah.
And there we go, basically, right? And so we met so you were in college, basically. And so since you've obviously built a good Amazon business, you don't have to do college anymore.
Yeah.
As well, and you've done some traveling too. So like break down how that's been able to do. Because you're a regular in Miami every 6 months or so. Can we come and hang out a little bit and everything? But break down just kind of like the freedom selling Amazon's given you and what you've been able to do. You were just in Seattle for a conference as well too.
I mean, I'm always on the move, like never really landlocked anywhere. Like I always spent 2.5 months in Asia. Was doing like $200,000 a month in revenue then, just scaled it back a bit just so a guy was having fun traveling.
It was the slower time of the year too. It was January and February and March, for example. And now we're in the easier time of the year. You obviously had the massive like 700K back to school specifically. Right, so big profit numbers on that as well too. And now what you've been able to do, you took like kind of the massive extreme is that you let the business give you a ton of freedom, and now you've really buckled down. You actually got a warehouse in Delaware, sales tax free, and started a prep center as well. So tell us about kind of using the Amazon business to build other stuff on top of the Amazon business as well.
Yeah, so I was just working with a 3PL, and I just wanted to bring it in-house because we're doing so much volume, dropped the cost for prep, and brought it in-house. And so I moved to Delaware, opened a 3PL called Big Cat Distribution.
I will pop up the IG on the screen right now. I'll follow the boys right there too. But it's cool how you've used selling on Amazon in different ways, and that some people, when they want to get started with this stuff, it's because they hate their job, or they just like reselling stuff, for example, and maybe they want more freedom, for example, or whatever. But if you're willing to put in a ton of work, you can use the Amazon business to create what you want, which 6 months ago, 9 months ago was traveling, which right now is major wealth generation and going, as hard as you can specifically right there too. And then also using that to build the prep center business as well too, because you were paying a prep center a ton. You had done a great job of establishing yourself in the Amazon community at Steven Does Business on Instagram and Twitter. Right there. So y'all make sure you go follow the boy. There too. So just in general, right? Because now you've been in the game a couple of years, since it was like literally like 2 years ago or so, probably this week or next week or the week after that we specifically met. Like what are the big mistakes you see newer Amazon sellers making, or that you made when you were getting going?
Going too deep on something when not knowing the product. Sometimes it's not understanding what you have in front of you. But like a lot of times you don't know you have, and you realize it, it's a great learning lesson for the future. Just not going deep on any products early on. Just keeping it light, FBMing, just learning as quick as possible so when you do get more to scale, you don't have to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, I like that. So basically, especially right now, man, people are watching this most likely in September, October, right? Building a baseline, testing wide, reducing risk, large build, getting product to market quick, retail arbitrage for higher profit margin, which I know you did a lot of when you were early on. I did a lot of that when I was getting going as well, right? And then over time, you can build something pretty great if you really work super hard with it as well. So another thing I've seen you do a great job of that I think I attribute a lot of my success, to it as well, was getting the community, meeting other people that are selling on Amazon, right? So talk about what that looks like, and honestly, just like how fun it is kind of just being in like our friend group of other sellers pretty much that we've like kind of met, honestly, the past couple of years,
I mean, first off, like if I stop selling tomorrow, my friends still be my friends. Like it doesn't matter. Like right out.
Like you've met them through, that's the exact thing though, and they live in different states and everything too.
Some people, like I've met, it took me a long time to meet them, but I've worked with them forever. But like literally just post your journey on Instagram, whatever you like, Instagram, Twitter, and just so people can hear your story, and then people want to reach out, or you reach out to them, better yet. I mean, hey, do you want to hop on a Zoom call? Let's chop it up. Let's source together. Like, just try to become friends with people, and just like, because like at the end of the day, so many people are so scared. Oh my gosh, what if they say no? I always say, it's like asking a girl, hey, you want to go on a date? Like, she says no, whatever. Don't be worried about if a seller says no. Just send the DMs. Like, hey, do you want to hop on a Zoom call?
And it's a super, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but it's like a super awkward thing too, where it's like, okay, you're going to meet random people on the internet, but bro, that's the world today with making money online and everything too, is like, the world is community. It's always been like that, but now you can access that digitally for no money, right? And literally like our friend group, like Peter's in Wisconsin, you're in Pennsylvania. Now you live in Delaware, right? I live in Florida, but I'm from Pennsylvania, where fairly similar to where we were located and everything too. But we didn't know each other in the past. We met through selling Amazon, and now this is the third time you're staying with me. Like, exactly. Like we probably met each other in person less than like 20 times. It's probably right around, probably somewhere between like 10 and 15. I remember you came to the warehouse, the first time 2 years ago, too, which was pretty cool. As well too. So what would you say was like the moment when you're really like, holy crap, like this totally works? Was it like one specific item, one specific opportunity, or loop as we like to call? Like what was that big aha moment?
My first time was like with Bucks, just not having to fill the back end, like having like a couple hours a day would be packing EA packages. When I moved to Amazon, I realized, holy crap, I can send this. I can use it to get front load all my inventory, get it in. And I'm a front loaded person. I like doing the stuff at the front, not as much as the back end. So, but with Amazon, everything's front loaded. I could just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And like, well, I got the boys involved.
That made it really fun too. And so you had what was your first Q4? Like 15K profit in December?
15K profit, 75K rep.
Yeah, exactly. And then last year was, probably a couple.
Yeah, I think it's 400,000 we did in December.
Yeah. And
this year, I'm hoping for $2.1 million.
Which is obviously a massive scale up.
And that's the goal. Yeah. Realistically, I'll be happy with 1.7 million.
Yeah. And that's like ridiculous levels of numbers where like that is like not common at all. Yeah, and this is what like putting everything into it, like moving to a new state from the no sales tax, right? Like starting your own prep center, but also having full-time staff helping you fulfill orders as a result of that too, and everything. But it also shows you what is possible with this stuff. Like you said, you were at the Amazon conference in Seattle with like people doing crazy numbers.
Yeah, some people doing over $100 million a year. Yeah, I used to walk up and say, "Hey, how you doing? What do you do?" Like we're just chatting up. Oh, I did 50 million, 80 million, 100 million, a couple 100 million. Like there are people at scale. The CEO of a company that does $1.9 billion a year.
So that was probably pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the people that are at scale, I'm like, holy crap.
But the interesting, that's like a whole nother business model with an Amazon, typically wholesale or private label. But you and me, like we've transcended what a lot of people think is realistic with all in our arbitrage specifically too. Right, and the interesting thing with all-in arbitrage is what a lot of people run into is like constraints of getting enough product because retailers are order canceling and everything and such. So most likely to continue beyond where you're at, you're probably gonna have to mix in some wholesale and private label as well. We were talking about it a little bit. Like, what kind of attracts you to those business models too, in terms of something you potentially might want to go at?
I mean, there's an exit at the end of their private label, and then like I go, it's just my eyes been open. Depending on where you're at, like Amazon, somebody's never done business before, your eyes would be open to Amazon. That's how mine was years ago. And like, you can see there's different levels to the game, and like, you just want to keep going up the step.
You just got to work on it every day. It's like, it's so much more work than you think it is, but it's also a lot more simple than you think it is too, right? And then like, if you keep going down the path, one, there's less and less competition the further you go. and you start to learn all these little intricacies. Here's how this website gets good. Here's how this website gets good. You know, someone DMs you on Instagram and they become a fun connection that you work with on this stuff. And that's like, you know, the whole name of the game in like the modern internet money economy. The way the world's always worked is who you know, right? And that's the same thing with these days today. And it's just significantly like a lot more fun, a lot easier when you have good people that you're doing it with.
100%. Like all the people like I talk to on a regular basis, like are some of my closest friends. It's some of my best friends.
It's everyone. For me, it's like it's all people.
Like they want something more in their life than your high school friends. A lot of them, they're happy to work a 9 to 5. Great for them, not for me. Like,
and you can, it's easy to feel lonely when you live in a small town. Like we're from separate small towns, but the cool thing is you're not limited to that anymore with the internet too. As well, I'm so excited to talk about this stuff too, because you're such a good example. That's why I keep interrupting you. I said it as good too, man, and everything. But on like the Q4 side of things too. So what are you doing specifically to prepare? Because I mean, it's probably what we're going to title this video too. So as we're filming this, right? So it is, I think it's September 22nd.
Yeah.
Right. So things get really good like November 15th, November 20th. But if you want to sell stuff at the peak FBA, you got to be sending that stuff in now.
Yeah. You're going to want to start sending now, depending on your capital. Yeah. If capital's tight, I mean, you're sending FBA right now, do your stuff.
Quick flip.
Don't hold.
Quick flip.
Don't be in the game of buying over. Like,
don't get cute.
And if you know that's what you should be doing, like you've been in the game, you did last Q4, you kind of the thing. In general, because right now the FCs are backed up, it's taking about 6 weeks for my stuff to settle. You're not like, I've talked to a ton of massive sellers and they're getting their stuff now, but realistically the best thing to do would be merge to fulfill all of your Black Friday stuff. That's the best way to do it. Send it to your house, list it the day before it comes in, and then you're selling it like as it comes in.
Yeah, because right now, right, the play, in my opinion, right, just in terms like industry ride way is FBAing stuff that's quick flip, or if you have experience, right, which, you know, not everyone watching this video does, is going to be sending in stuff to sell at the peak of Q4. However, that's risky because people are going to buy that stuff cheaper during Black Friday, but the key is that on some items, there's an arbitrage selling at higher FBA. For most people, though, in my opinion, which is what I've always done during Q4, which you've always done when you're getting going during Q4 as well, is quick merch filled flips as long as you can see other people merch filling that stuff, right? And that gives you a lot of benefits because you can get the item listed quicker. You don't got to worry about checking times, right? And you can restock it quicker, and all the money during Q4 is made in the restocks. It's getting in a rhythm. It's going out and taking the time to do order pickups. It's going out and taking the time to do retail arbitrage to get product on the market quicker because it's a compressed time frame with exaggerated more and more opportunity to go ahead and take a look at. So you got to make sure you're taking advantage of that stuff too. And as well, another thing you did a lot in the beginning was RA as well. So you're obviously doing mainly OA these days, but especially on the Q4 side of things, talk about the big benefits of RA, specifically in some of those relationships you built.
Our RA operation will really start picking up during Q4 because if I see something I really want, there's some places I have actual coupon for in story. Like,
yeah, it's off knowing the employees well.
I got literally the employees put me on the stuff. But like you're going to want to do RA because if you can pick it up the same day and list it, you can sell through it. Holy crap! I went to only one store and I just sold 20 of it within a day.
But there's
now it's on all the stores and order online, so it's coming to your house. So as the stuff like you picked up is selling through the other stuff you order for the website coming into the house still.
Yep. And just in general, man, like I've also seen like you do like tons of creative stuff, getting to know employees well, and just other, you know, ways of like combining discount codes and gift cards and when stuff's on sale and learning the sales cycles and being diligent, hitting up employees to figure out when sales are happening, hitting up customer service to see when sales are happening. And that's what it takes to really, really be successful with this stuff, is that most people that get into it, a lot of people, they expect full-time income with side hustle effort. And the only time you're going to get great side hustle income or great full-time income is putting in full-time effort to it. So you got to deal with what you got, your available time, and really, really go hard with this stuff.
Yeah,
and everything.
And like a great thing to keep a 9 to 5 as your scale, so you can scale the business fast.
A ton of people do that. Our friend Nick, Paolo as well. Josh did for a while. Peter still, and everything. So that's a beautiful thing, man. So I'm super proud of everything you got going on too. So where can people find you on socials and the Prep Center on social?
They can find Steven at Steven Does Business. Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. Big Cat Disc on Instagram.
Yep. Cool. A website for the prep side too, or is that coming soon?
Big Cat Distribution.
Got
You can find it online.
Gotcha. Cool. Sweet. Sounds
So yeah, man, it's crazy how things have evolved over the past year or so, basically. But do you guys just want to bring everyone up to speed with like, you know, your backgrounds in regards to selling Amazon and what you've been able to do so far? Because you guys are both two rare examples of people who have gone individually 0 to 100K a month plus in less than 6 months, basically. So pretty cool stuff. But bring everyone up to speed with your guys' background and everything.
Yeah, so my background, I started in business specifically. I started selling shoes in high school, and I ran a side hustle playing skee ball and then buying prizes and selling it for a profit. And then when I got to college, I wanted to start something more business-like, and then it was Amazon, what kind of came to my mind. So I jumped in. I started it right when I got to school at my freshman year, and then ever since, I focused on it, spent every day working on the business, and it's grown exponentially fast. So it's been good.
Yeah, literally like your first week of college, right? Like that first, like it was my birthday week. Yeah, like the first week of it is crazy, and everything too. And the cool thing is, Gavin's brother and I actually go way back in time to together with selling sneakers as well too. So it's cool how that's evolved and everything too. And you're also a former, so you dropped out of college, but you're a former college baseball player. Right. As well. So we talk all about like the pipeline of athletes to Amazon and how that translates and everything, man. How about you, Parker?
Yeah, so I was just working in medical device sales. I've been an athlete my whole life. I actually did 6 years of college baseball. So I pretty much needed to take that passion and put it into something else. And then I found Amazon, watched a lot of your content, and just kind of jumped in right away, like made my LLC that night, got everything going within like a couple weeks. And I just took off from there, met these guys, and really just never looked back after that.
Yeah, and that's really important in terms of the taking action quick and everything too, basically. And so Parker, you're from Georgia. Gavin, you're from Indiana, right? You guys are, several years apart, basically. So, it's the kind of thing where like so few people are interested in selling on Amazon that you have no other choice. Either you're super lonely selling Amazon, or you find community, you join groups, you talk to people, for example, and everything too. And now you guys are obviously in person though together, right? So talk about the current setup, just living situation, Mike, because this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, in the Amazon community.
Yeah. So we're living, it's me, Parker, and Aaron's here to handle time. We got a place in Cape Coral, Florida for about 3 months for like Q4. We're heading home around Thanksgiving, but we kind of just thought like we've been working together for a year now, like talking almost every single day in group chats. We became so close. We just thought it was best. Like, why don't we just live together for a couple of months and we can talk in person throughout the entirety of the day. And it is truly paying off. It's honestly one of the best decisions we could have made. And I feel like we're making a lot more money being together in the same house. So
yeah, because for sure, right? Because you're the product of the people you're around, both digitally and more so in person in that respect, right? And it's tough to find people, IRL. But you and Aaron actually are both from Indiana. You guys met up in your first couple of days of knowing each other, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you guys hit up the outlet together and everything, which is pretty cool too. But literally, these guys met, through on Twitter in my group, for example, and just made friends. Group chats going 24/7, talking about this stuff, solving these problems together. So talk about the early days. So you both got started in August and September of 2023, right? So last year. Talk about what it was like getting those first couple initial sales and getting the ball rolling, because that's for sure the hardest part, I would say.
Yeah, it is exponentially harder to get started with this business. And I think when you get those first couple of sales, it's really just the proof of concept, right? Like if you can't get those first few sales, you're never going to believe in this. I was extremely happy my first sale. I remember it like to this day. And you find like one good product when you first start out, and that can be the difference between you quitting and you sticking this thing out. So for me, like August was only like $1,000 in sales, but just having that proof of concept and having that work ethic and believing in something that you don't need to see results right away is like the biggest thing, I think, in my opinion.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. And so you were just doing RA at the start, right? Like probably some Walmart RA, right?
Yeah. Walmart RA. I was going into like Dick's. I was going into Academy, just scanning. And I knew I probably wasn't going to find too many things, but having that mindset of, okay, I'm definitely learning something here, whether I make money or not on this like trip. You know what I mean?
Very important, man, right? Because if you can sell something, even if you break even, you can find stuff profitable, for example, and that like you can see these listings. There's like the price wouldn't be stable. 20 people wouldn't be selling them if they weren't making money on it, for example, right? And sure, you might not be able to find them at a profitable price, but clearly other people have. And if other people have, you can too. And that's a very important mental reframe. And that, like, this week I was doing some sourcing and I found this brand that I hadn't seen much, but I spent more time looking into it. And it turns out it comes from like the outlet website, for example, right? So like they have like an outlet website for the brand. The gift cards translate from the main brand website to that outlet website. And then it unlocked a ton of problems. Like, damn, like I've seen this, a decent amount. And now this seller's got 121 ASINs from this brand. Now I know how to make a majority of them good. Now they might not be good today. It might only be during the sale that happens once a month, but you get to the bottom of that over time and everything too. So a lot of former athletes or current athletes watching this, right, that are looking for a place. You said that so well. They're looking for a place to let out that raw energy, that aggression. Probably not going to get that at a medical sales job. No. Right? Probably not going to get that there. No. Right. So talk about how that does translate to the business world and everything, man, because I could not agree more. It's just getting that initial momentum to let yourself have the skill to go grab that output,
I think it's just the competitive aspect, because at the same time, like, you're competing with all the sellers on this platform. And I find it extremely enjoyable to go and find and make something profitable, get something cheaper than the rest of the people know how to do. And also networking with your buddy. Like, we even compete like with each other. So that adds another layer of fun into it. But I know a lot of athletes that are now selling on Amazon, and I think all of them are doing well just because it gives you that extra thing to think about daily. Like it almost gives you a reason to get out of bed. Just like
that's so true, man. That is so true. Because and sorry to interrupt, but it materially has a great impact in your life, and that, like it or not, more money gives you more options, right? And that you could not go down and live in Florida with your boys, if you were doing the medical sales job. I assume not, right?
No.
Well, exactly, right. And the key is, though, it's not that you spend a bunch of time. It's not that you spend a bunch of money. It's that you build a skill that translated in a competitive marketplace that gives you, positive returns basically and everything, right? So that's like the name of the game and everything too. And Gavin, you literally like said goodbye to baseball, like literally like left college early pretty much, to run the stuff up and everything. And what's the mindset behind like leaving college basically? Like what was kind of your thought process behind that?
I was just thinking more futuristic, like down the road, what do I want? Where's baseball going to take me? Where's this business going to take me? And kind of just thought them both out and went with the business. Baseball was the biggest thing that I left behind. It was hard to do, but it's working. It's paying off for sure. Like, I'm enjoying myself every single day, waking up, out here in Florida, running the business I like to run. It's just a great time. It was honestly a good decision. And yeah, baseball was the hardest thing to leave behind. And yeah.
Yeah, it was what it is, though. I mean, college is always there if you need it, right? They're going to let you take out some debt if you want it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always going to be there. A job's always going to be there, right? And you guys obviously are in a very advantageous position, as myself included, as young men, lack of responsibility comparatively to, other people. But if you're watching this and you're in that position, now's the time to go all out into stuff, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean spend a bunch of money, but it means invest time places that can materially impact your life, and let this be permission. You guys had every reason not to go do this. Every reason not to go do this, right? Gavin, you had baseball, college baseball, your first season of it, your first week of college. Parker, you had obviously the, the job going on and everything. You had every reason to not go ahead and do it, right? So what did that look like from a time management perspective? Because that's like one of the big things, especially, college kids and everything. They, want to find reasons that they can't do stuff, which is not true, right? But talk about the time management side of things. It's a very important aspect of it,
Yeah, for me, I think I was managing really well on the weekends. And that was just kind of like what I chose to do, is work really hard on the weekends for it. Obviously, here and there during the week, I would try to work on it too. But really, like, for me, I wanted to put in the time. I enjoyed doing it every single day. So for me, like, it was almost like I had to pull myself away from the computer, pull myself away from the stores, rather than like, oh, I have to go do this. You know what I mean? And if you don't really enjoy it, like, it's probably not going to go that well anyway.
That's very true, right? And the reason behind that, how do you enjoy it, is you get good at it. That takes time, and you do it with people you like. It literally is true, though, right? Like, what's the most fun part of high school? Hanging out with the locker room with your boys, right? Favorite part of college, all that, right? And it's so positive seeing you guys, and the way I did it with my guys, like the Buy Box Bandits, for example, right? You replicate that environment, right? And it makes it really fun. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning, right? And that if your boys are checking out the item, are you just not going to check out the item? You'd be letting them down, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we remember we used to all send videos of ourselves doing push-ups too as well. Yeah, bro, that's what I'm saying, right? Like it gives you a reason to go get this stuff. It's just like borderline impossible to find it in person right from the get-go, and just harder too. Everyone you want to know is on social media. You got to share what you're up to and everything, right? And you guys have done a phenomenal job then and are continuing to. So talk about what that's been like, because you guys originally, like, you found Aaron on Twitter, right, before he was even in the group.
Yeah. I found Aaron on Twitter in the DMs, and then Gavin was thrown in the group as well. But I think the biggest thing with social media is there was a point in time where I was like, okay, I had never used social media for the last 3 years. Being an athlete, you don't really want to ever be on the platform and like make a mistake or say something bad. But
which
I
is
had to have that
also a problem and why you needed financial independence. But yeah, this is
yeah.
different.
So I had like a switch flip of like, okay, I don't care what anyone thinks. I need to get on this platform because that's what everyone's saying to do. And then I just went ahead and ripped a video on the platform and honestly got pretty good like results with way more than I expected, and realized, okay, this is not that hard to actually do. And then from there, just so many doors kept opening.
Yeah. And what does that look like though? Doors opening, like talk about what that actually looks like and what you've been able to do with that. Cause in your case, it's not just selling Amazon. It's lifelong friends. It's the opportunity to do consulting. It's the opportunity to be an affiliate for software companies, right? Significantly beyond just selling Amazon, which is still the majority of your money though, you know?
Yeah, I think that Twitter for me has been huge. Like I just got active on the platform. I like writing on there, and there has been so many doors open. Like like you said, affiliate marketing, just meeting people in the business industry, like having DMs flow through all the time, just to talk and have interactions of other people that actually are trying in business is so valuable itself. I think that Twitter itself has probably like profited me 6 figures just this year alone, just because I use the platform.
And now you think about it, it's like, when did you get the majority of the output from your baseball career? Probably in college, years into it, right?
Yeah.
And you consider it exactly, right? You know, it's an interesting perspective shift in that like everyone wants to succeed quick with selling Amazon. Now you guys did, right? Very, very few people do, for example. But like regardless though, it's like everyone who's good at a sport, everyone who's good at a business, typically they've been doing it for a while, right? And you get like, you know, a lot of the compound interest just in general, right? Like it comes over time. So you got to give yourself some time to figure it out. You guys are only, you know, a year into the game, for example, but so many people quit in their first couple months when like they haven't given themselves a chance to go get lucky. They haven't given themselves a chance to go find a fire early Black Friday sale, for example, right? Like a bunch of those are going on right now and everything too. So tactically on the Amazon business side of things. So obviously you did not bring thousands of FBM orders down to Florida. Like talk through the setup of what the Amazon business actually looks like, because it's a far cry from what it was a year ago, which was like the garage full of product, you know, and everything.
Yeah. So Parker and I actually share VA. We've had it for a year now, honestly. We had it in a big group, and now Parker and I just share it. So he's doing a lot of the back end stuff.
And what's a VA for anyone who's not familiar?
A virtual assistant. So he's from the Philippines. We pay him $5 an hour currently. He started off at $4. We gave him a raise. He does a great job. Hard worker. Basically, you know, whatever we don't want to do in the business, some admin stuff, we kind of just, you know, hop on with him, shoot him a text and give him instructions on what to do for our businesses to keep weight off our shoulders. And we can spend more time going to the gym, hopping in the pool, or sourcing more products. So we share that. And then we have a prep center in place as well, where we're shipping all of our items to the prep center. So we're not seeing those items on hand. We ship it to a sales tax free state, save money there, pay the prep fee. And then they're going to ship that to the Amazon warehouse and then list it for sale. So we're not really doing as much work, obviously, as we were when we started. We leveraged it a little bit, but we do have a system in place. It's working pretty well.
Yeah, right. So that's the name of the game. And that, like, you know, if Parker told his family, yo, I'm doing retail arbitrage, I'm going into Walmart and scanning stuff, they're like, holy crap. Or most families would be like, holy crap, you're going to go do that for the next 25 years? That's not going to ever result to anything. But you take a look at what the evolved version, that little bit more mature version of that, right, is, you know, for $5-6 an hour, you can get someone full-time in the Philippines helping you with any computer-based work, right? For $1 a unit, $1.50 a unit, and no sales tax, right? You can get, you know, a prep center in a sales tax-free state. The cool thing is, I assume you guys use Max, right?
Yep.
Exactly, right? Max is another guy who's been on my channel who literally got started with the group, you know, a year and a half ago, for example. He's changed his whole life too, right? So once again, keeping the money in the family. That's a beautiful thing right there as well, right? And, you know, so virtual assistant, prep center, process your inventory, right? But the key is I know you boys are going home Black Friday, so you can feel some FBM because we're never too good for some FBM.
Nope.
Right. Exactly. Right. So break down how that's going to change and that like, okay, November 30th or whatever, you go home. How does the business change and why?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention, like my parents are a big help in my business. Shout out to them.
And the grandma too. Grandma too.
Grandma,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Grandma.
That's love, man.
Yep, so they're back home. They're running the shop right now. FBM orders that I've ordered a few units to the house here and there. And then they're running it right now. When I get back, I'm gonna be coming back to a lot of units, FBM as well, because Q4 you have to FBM if you want to make a lot of money. You have to FBM. So for me personally, I'm going to come back to thousands of units waiting for me to sell in December. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I think last year, one of the things that really benefited my business was being able to go in store and flip things over every single day. There was a time from like December 1st through the 5th that I was just driving to retail stores every single day and the inventory would sell before I even got home. So when you're turning it over that quickly, you can send in the FBA like now or a little bit earlier than now, and then the rest you can just FBM it. You can get it out so quickly that you're turning over your money faster than any other thing that I've ever seen before, honestly.
Yes, exactly. Right. So let's break that down. So a normal online arbitrage purchase, right? So today is November 11th, right? So getting close to too late for FBA shipments for the year, but regardless, let's say compared to any other time, right? So it's November 11th. On average, an OA purchase is going to take 4 to 7 days to get to you. Right. And then 1 to 3 weeks to check into FBA. And that's assuming you ship it out instantly, which, we're all really, about it, right? We're driven here. So we're turning shit over quick, right? But regardless, right? It might take a couple days, which is completely normal, right? Compare that to an FBM purchase, right? Merchant fulfilling, shipping directly to the customer. You get that in 4 to 7 days. You might sell that same day. Or what Parker's talking about, going in and doing retail arbitrage and literally rather than waiting 3 weeks for an OA order to check into FBA, picking it up same day, getting it listed same day, restocking it the next day, you learn a lot quicker, and that skyrockets your cash flow. You de-risk yourself. You beat the market. You beat your competition to market, right? And that's a big benefit. But the key is, you weren't just going in and scanning stuff. You knew what to look for, right? So there's a big caveat between retail arbitrage, go in and scan stuff, versus retail arbitrage, show up, tell the app you're here for the pickup order, the people bring it out to you, and then you leave. It's a significantly different story. And I've literally known a retail store has stuff. I've put it in pickup order, aka kind of like escrow, for example, right? It's sitting there in pickup order, which is, by the way, and if y'all are this late in the video, it's a really, really good way to get proof of concept for free. You can cancel the pickup order if you ever want to, so you don't spend any money, but you can list stuff while it's in pickup order when it's confirmed, right? I've literally had pickup orders, sold the inventory FBM, driven to the retailer, and then driven to the post office. That's the perfect. The inventory never even saw the garage. The inventory never even saw the garage, for example, and everything too. So that's the big thing is, man, because during Q4, the FBA warehouses get so backed up, for example, right? You have no choice but either wait a ton of time for inventory to check in or just FBM it, which takes a little bit more time per order. But if you consider how much quicker you actually learn, you actually save a bunch of time, in my opinion. Right. So talk about scaling up FBM in December, especially because that's the biggest time of the year. And it's completely reasonable to do 20, 30, 40, 50% of your profit for the entire year just in December. So talk further about that. Cause I could jam on this, all day.
Yeah, I honestly think that enjoyment of scaling FBM is really where the blood, sweat, and tears of the business is built.
And all your boys are doing it too. So, it's a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody's loving it. They're sending pictures to each other. You got all these poly bags that you're packing up, which actually doesn't take too much time.
Not at all, because it's less SKUs too, man. Yeah. It's, if you're selling 500 to one item, that's one. You can pre-package them, right? Sorry to interrupt again. But once again, it's another big benefit of FBM. And during December is volume skyrockets on stuff, right? So you need way less SKUs than you think you do. Yeah, but I could rant about it.
Basically what I do is I bulk print the labels. So I'll go ahead and print them all out, and then I'll write on the back of them what they are. Then I'll just slap them on there, pack all the poly bags. And then I'm doing USPS pickups. They'll come to your house every single day besides Sunday, and they'll come pick those up. And then with UPS, you can also do pickups too, or you can I have these Amazon packing bags that I usually do, and I have 2 of those. I actually paid an Amazon delivery guy $20 and he just gave it to me. So those have been huge. And then, yeah, just getting stuff out every single day. It kind of becomes a habit. Like you get used to it. You're going to the post office every single day. You build it into your schedule and then you just keep it moving.
Yeah, right. And the reason you put in that extra work is because it's so much extra money once you get good at it. You know what I mean? And that it might be hard to think of doing that right now, but like, you know what I mean? You'll do it for the right amount of money. You know what I'm saying? Like for example, what's the most amount of FBM orders you guys have ever each individually done in one day? Like orders on your store, not shipping stuff out, because weekends obviously you have to do a ton on the Monday.
I think I hit 350.
I've done 520.
Yeah,
520. Exactly right, dude. And that's the crazy thing. It's like some people are just out here trying to get your first sale, which is how you get started. You know what I mean? I think my record's like 1,300, so it might be 1,400. So yeah, like, and that's the key is that's where you get into the danger territory of like, will the post office even take this?
Yeah. Driving around to the bag.
And like, you know, actually getting stuff scanned and everything too. So like my FBM routine, this is like at the peak, for example, right? Is I'd go to the warehouse at 7 a.m., hit a bunch of orders, do the first pickup at 8, then do a drop off at 11, then do a drop off at 5, for example, too. Because it literally gets to the point, if you're on fast moving ASINs that are selling thousands a month, like volume, like 2.5x's in December, I think minimum is kind of the way I think about it. Right. But many listings more than that. And it also depends on competition relative to the market and stuff too. Right. And everything. But yeah, like, you know, you just gotta, you know, you just do the work, right? Because it's so much extra money. You learn a lot quicker too. So what'd you guys each do profit wise in December?
I did 20,000 profit last December.
Me too. About
right around there. Yeah, exactly. Right. And y'all probably don't even feel like you know much. You know what I mean? Seeing with how many things you could have done better and everything. And you're so new to the business world, myself included too. It's a major blessing and everything. So what are you telling to the beginner sellers that are struggling to find profitable items? Like, how do we think about that? Because that's like definitely the hardest part, I feel like, for all of us is like, okay, the sales rank's low on this, but how the heck do I make any money?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you can put yourself in a group and talk in that group every day for 2 weeks, you will not run out of leads, in my opinion. If you're with the right group of guys and you guys hop on Discord every night, a group of 6 people or so, and you're sharing ideas, brands, websites, all that stuff, and do it every day for 2 weeks, I can guarantee you will not run out of leads.
Yeah, and remember, Aaron just used to hang out in voice chat for like hours. Yeah, we're like, that's the way. And it's hard to find those locked in people, but it's not when you're posting on Twitter every day, right? It's actually very easy to do, right? Because people got no other choice but to watch your stuff. But yeah, right. So for example, so people to do it with is huge, right? And then just overall tactically making the numbers work. So like, for example, it's a whole bunch of ways, right? So like, every retailer is going to have a combination of some of these, right? So like, let's talk to these boys. So like tax exempt. Right? For OA and RA, right? Discounted gift cards, right? You guys rock with discounted gift cards?
Yep.
What sites? What gift card providers?
Card Depot and GCX.
Cool. And use Card Bear, which is an aggregator of a bunch of those. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, Card Cash is dope too. But use Card Bear because it aggregates all those, right? Coupon codes via Capital One Shopping and Coupon Birds, right? So there's a couple free extensions you guys can use that'll pop up different coupons. It's very helpful too, right? Early Black Friday sales, Cyber Monday sales. You'd be shocked how many times those combine. I found a great early Black Friday sale where it's a BOGO deal on the website, but the 20% sign up also works. And there's gift cards. So it's like I'm paying nothing compared to the people that aren't thinking of those discounts. No wonder a bunch of stuff is going to be good for me. For example, too, you know, like obviously it's going to be right when you're paying 40% less than everyone else. For example, too, I know it's price matching vibes too as well. Yeah, it's great match too. And then sometimes you got to negotiate with the employees locally, man. See if you can put on that, you know, extra discount and everything. That is shows on the retailer, but like how many people are afraid to go ahead and ask for that? A lot. And that's why the money's waiting for you, you know, if it is and everything. So Q4 timeline here. So right now we're in early Black Friday sales season, right? November 15th to like the 25th or so, there's not that many good sales. Now, there are going to be this year because Black Friday's later, for example, but relative, right? Not as many. November 24th is the Sunday before Black Friday. That's when a ton of sales turn on, right? So you got to make sure you got your poly mailers from Amazon ready, 9x12, 12x15. You got to make sure you have your boxes ready from Walmart or Uline. Don't worry about that if you don't have sales, though. If you have sales, you're going to Walmart, you'll figure it out, right? And then Black Friday sales kick off the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And then what would you say is like the peak of the entire year? I'd personally say like December 5th to the 20th, for example.
I would agree. Those dates right there.
17th, like December 5th through like the 17th.
Exactly. Yeah. So it completely agree right on that. Yeah, completely agree. And the key too, with that is that it's when you have your best stuff in stock. So theoretically, you could have a phenomenal December and not even find good listings till like December 14th. But you might be willing to go put in the extra hours and go put in long hours at the outlets or go do a ton of pickup orders or cover some extra ground on RA wise and go to some other stores, for example, right? And your best days are when you have the best stuff in stock, right? And also another underrated component of that too is like everyone talks about Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, but a lot of the same inventory is actually more profitable buying into December, because if it's a 25% Black Friday sale that ends, but you can use a 15% coupon code that's around forever, but the item's selling for 20% more or 25% more or 40% more, which happens all the time, right? You're more profitable buying in December, and it probably sells quicker in December too. But you test right now, for example, and everything too. So specifically on the Q4 side of things, if you could go back and give yourself like a playbook in retrospect to yourself a year ago, like what are you telling newer sellers going into their first Q4?
One thing that you have to do is juice up the expedited orders too. I know we talked about FBM, and the big plus side of FBM is getting those expedited orders, because come mid-December, you're going to get a bunch. I'd say like if you can get 10% expedited orders, 5 to 10%, that's all boosting your profit margin like crazy, especially
if you're shipping same day, man, and Amazon's charging you 12, but you charge the customer 30. Exactly. Right. So what's the shipping template people should have, or what do you guys specifically have?
So my expedited is 35. My 2-day is 55, and my 1-day is 65.
Have they ever said anything about it being too high?
No.
It's weird. They police it differently for some sellers, and it's not tragic if they say it's too high, but they police it differently for some sellers. It's weird. Yeah.
But to be specific, like the 1-day is $64.99 to get that little.
Yeah, well, the conversion rate boost. Yeah, exactly, right? And everything. And the key is, so the way that breaks down, guys, is so I recommend charging free shipping for standard and economy orders, just because like you're not paying the FBA fees, so it ends up being about the same cost. So like there's no difference in pricing really that you have to do. But then when customers want it quicker, which happens more and more as we get into December, you want to make sure it's like 1 day, 2 day, next day, or 1 day, 2 day expedited, right? You're charging a lot. For example, I recommend just do the standardized like 30, but if you're watching this deep in the video, you're very serious about this, you should probably just use the one Gavin said, for example, too, right? Because if you're this late in the video, you're pretty serious about the stuff. And then you can increase it in December because people need the product quicker. Right. So they're willing to pay more, for example, too. I posted this meme on Twitter. It was like this lady saying like, I'll take it. I'll take it Friday instead. Cause it was like deliver on Wednesday for $750 extra or deliver on Friday for free. It was like a god tier shipping template. Like obviously like no one's going to buy specifically right there, but pretty cool stuff. Right. And how about you, Parker? Like what else you guys telling to yourself a year ago, or just newer sellers watching this in respect to Q4 success?
I think just document it, because we actually had a sale this year that Gavin ran last year, but now we have that knowledge and more capital, and it's going to be a game changer for us. So I would say like make spreadsheets with SellerAmp, because you're going to be able to look on those same sales. And I have a few spreadsheets as well for like a sale that comes up at the end of the month that I made last year, and that will just compound and makes things so much easier. And the brands really start to stack on top of each other. Like you learn one brand, you start doing well with it, you learn another brand, and it just compounds year after year. So I would just say like document all the sales and when they started, so you remember next year.
Yeah, so document internally in respect to like super tactical stuff, and then document your personal journey on social media, which is going to attract good people in your life, because basically no one finds cool Amazon sellers walking down the street. Right? No Amazon seller looks like an Amazon seller just walking down the street, for example, right? There's no like archetype specifically, but like I can guarantee that people you want to know are on social media. They're watching this video and they're in the comments of this video. They follow Gavin and Parker on Twitter, right? So just go on and follow as many Amazon sellers as you can. That costs you no money. And if you're really serious about it, you'll learn a lot quicker and you'll have a lot more fun finding cool sellers to work with. And you do that by attracting them publicly on social media and building digital leverage. Right. And everything. So y'all have done a phenomenal job of that. Scroll back on Gavin's page, scroll back on Parker's page, scroll back on my Instagram to 2019. I've been doing it almost 6 years. And you can see when like my second month on Amazon, I did 2K in sales. How many people quit whose second month was way better than my second month, for example, right? But you figured it out and everything over time. Where can people follow you guys on social media if they want to see more of your guys' stuff?
At Gavin FBA for me on all platforms.
Yep, at Parker Beatier as well.
And so you're a great example of someone who's been very successful for their first year selling on Amazon with the 9 to 5 though as well. So you're a very successful part-time seller. You said, what were the November and December numbers looking like monthly?
November was about 50K and December was 55.
Pretty cool. So probably right about 20% profit on that. So like 10, 11K. That annualized, you keep that momentum going, you build on it. That's a nice 6-figure profit, side hustle you're building right there as well.
Sorry. And it was mostly FBM.
So gotta love that. So that's a lot of work, right? But you're rewarded because you get to learn that, or you get to, see the proof of concept quicker for sure. Yep. Right. And now, in Q1, you could switch over to a little bit more FBM too. But you would just want to kind of give some context, give your background, who you are, why'd you get into selling Amazon?
Yeah. So I've been in the environmental industry for 25 years, and it's really a grind. It's really stressful. And a couple of years ago, the wife and I just started talking about, hey, retiring early and all the, one of those things, just kind of talk about sitting by the pool with some drinks in the backyard. And so it really got me kind of really investigating side hustles and stuff like that. I've looked at everything from like online surveys to drop shipping, online, affiliate marketing, all that kind of stuff, and actually landed on vending machines and purchased my first vending machine 2 years ago. We're up to about 15 now. But it really wasn't, I just kind of wanted more. I wanted something more. And then that kind of led me to Amazon last year. And the first thing I kind of got into was the Buy Box Bandits. And I binged every episode that I could. And I remember even in one of the episodes, another guy was saying, I was doing vending, and all of you guys were like, oh, Amazon's way easier than that. And I was like, oh, okay. So literally opened up my account that day, and it never looked back, just been scaling and learning ever since.
Yeah. And when were your first Amazon sales? What month of 2020?
That was at the end of March. I just started kind of selling stuff around the house. And my first sale, I lost money on it with the shipping. It was a used Beastie Boys CD. And it was actually a return because I was so excited, I never even bothered to open the jewel case and realized there was not even a CD in there.
That's interesting start there. Yeah, but you get the ball rolling, right? You get the ball rolling as well too.
And it was proof of concept, and it was just like, okay, like slow down and you can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, 100%, right? But you got to get through that initial period of, okay, when you're a beginner, you got to learn to source stuff with SellAmp and Keepa. You got to learn to list stuff. You got to learn how to prep stuff, right? You got to learn how to do all the back end on Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. But once you do that, like you've done at this point, which takes time, right? It just becomes a game of execution, right? Yep. And so in your case, right, it's easy, for, kids right out of college or kids in school or whatever they have a lot more time, a lot less responsibility typically. In your case, right, you've had a good career prior, right? And still do, right? So break down, how time management works for being a successful part-time seller.
So this is one of my very, very weak points. I'm very bad with time management, but I get it done. I'm kind of just fly by the seat of my pants, to be honest with you. But a lot of it is, I'm an early riser, so I'm up at 4:30, 5 a.m. every day, and I've got my own workout stuff in the garage. So I would be like in between sets, packing FBM stuff, and then printing labels at work, and then hitting stuff after work, and making sure I'm getting to the post office on time. That's kind of how I started with. I was doing a lot of FBM, and I realized, like this isn't going to be sustainable. So eventually got the prep center and all that kind of stuff. But time management is definitely one of those things that I need to be better at. And it was brutal during Q4 and back to school. But I just kept seeing those orange bars go up, and that was motivation,
Yeah. And when you're newer to something, it's very easy for people in your life to be like, if you're going out and doing RA, like you're going to do that for the next 20 years. It's like, no, it's a stepping stone. I'm going to learn, right? Am I going to be having to wake up super early to fulfill a bunch of FBM orders for the next 20 years? Absolutely not. You build leverage, you build skill, your time gets more efficient. You can delegate to a prep center, right? Break down, what the workflow with the prep center looks like. Because previously, the way you're doing it prior is you buy stuff, whether it's RA in store or online arbitrage, and you ship it to you, and then you individually fulfill it to your customers, right? But break down what the prep center model looks like, because that's what makes sense for a lot of, successful part-time sellers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I gotta say I love it because it's kind of like investing in dividend stocks or something like that. You're literally looking for something that's going to be profitable, and then you just, like before I got on here today, I found a good product that was really good for me during Q4, and it's kind of one of those products that is good FBM and FBA. And this site keeps having sales. And so so literally before we're on here, I placed like 10 orders, and it's awesome knowing that those are just going to go to my prep center. I'm going to put it on a spreadsheet, enter in all the costs and everything like that. And then it's done. I'm going to get an email saying, oh, that your FBA stuff's checking in. And then you start seeing the sales go through. So I definitely do not have anything bad to say about FBM. I think it is a good way to get your chops, to kind of learn. The first year I recommend doing a lot of it if you can, and then that when you're doing that FBA to prep center, it just kind of feels like a game, and that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, because the prep center receives the inventory for you. They list it on Amazon for you. They handle all the shipments, and all you have to do is make sure the spreadsheet's updated correctly, right? But you get that over time. Now, some people could totally use prep centers from the get-go. I think you get your hands dirty a little bit, learn the process on your own, have full ownership of it, be able to take action pretty quick, right? And everything too. And so you're located in SoCal, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly, man. So dude, if you want to go do wholesale in the future, that's going to be a great opportunity too. As well, for any of you guys who live in, major metro areas, the long-term play was selling on Amazon, probably starting to do wholesale as well. But to play devil's advocate, you also live in an incredibly good part of the country for retail arbitrage too, right? And then you make, a good friend group online, learn a couple websites really well, then you're set up really well online arbitrage too. Right. Mm-hmm. As well, too, which is, another great, component of the business primarily as well. So you've also been super active on social media, too, which is awesome. Talk about how, if at all, right, which I assume so based on where you put your time, right? Talk about how the community and networking has been really helpful for your Amazon business.
You know what? It's been incredibly helpful because, and I'm in a few WhatsApp groups and your school group. I'm in a school group with Chris Grant. And I feel like even if you don't ask the question, someone else is asking these questions, and it might even be something you never thought of, and you go, oh, hey, I didn't. And then, and then you can just kind of bounce other stuff off people. And you also kind of see that there are no stupid questions, because someone's asking something and you go, oh, come on. But then you're like, well, at one point you were there, I was there. And then it kind of makes you feel better about asking something that maybe you thought was, this is stupid. Everybody knows this. So, and then it's obviously great for leads, like sharing leads with each other, getting advice on Keepa charts. You might get excited about something and go, hey, what about? And then someone points out something that because you were so excited, you kind of overlooked that. You know what I mean? So. It's just kind of a good checks and balances.
Yeah, 100% too. And the way I personally like to think about kind of synthesize down is, right, sellers who are in the mix, who are in the community, right? One, it costs no money. They have more fun because there are people around them that are on the mission. Good things in life become good things because of the people you deal with, right? And if you sell on Amazon by yourself, it's going to be a little harder, right? They also avoid mistakes. They find a lot more leads. They find a lot more opportunity. It's overall just a better way to sell on Amazon, right? And all that comes from is just Facebook groups, Discord groups, like my coaching program potentially, right? Instagram, Discord, right? X as well too, right? And just makes the process, a hell of a lot more fun as well. So now that you got kind of some time to breathe after your first Q4, what are your plans for the future with the Amazon business?
So I do I like OA. I enjoy the hunt. I enjoy finding the discounts and things like that. So for now, that's kind of just the plan. I would like to maybe delve into some wholesale down the line, but as far as like immediate plans, definitely scaling up. And I did realize during Q4 and back to school that scaling up the way I would like to is very difficult with FBM. So I'm going to put more of my focus into the FBA. I definitely learned a lot during Q4 and back to school on speculating on just different things that I wouldn't have done that next year. Next year I would have doubled down on the FBA and maybe just FBM'd a few of like the bangers that were just like those. And there were a few in Q4 and in back to school where, I mean, the minute you list them, you're sold out.
Yeah, and it just, you also learn, sorry to interrupt, you learn stock forecasting so much better too, once you've been in the game for a little while, and that's what you'll be able to really see play out, this year too. For the person who feels like they're struggling with online arbitrage sourcing, right, that's maybe doing a little bit of storefront stalking, right, maybe some keeper product finder, right, what would you tell them that kind of was the difference between back when you struggled with product research versus what you're doing now?
Okay, so this is by no means was I prompted to say any of this, but I do want to say that joining your coaching program was a huge turning point in my business. It helped me to kind of see a different perspective, kind of learn about different coupon codes, evergreen coupons, stuff like that you really drive home to us. The sourcing calls, and then the support that you provide with, and then the networking. I mean, if you can afford, and not everybody can, but if you can afford it, I would definitely recommend this coaching group or some coaching group that can, because I know it helped me. I'm a big proponent of investing in training, learning and things like that. If you really want to be serious about this. Now, not everybody can afford that. Yep. So I would say that definitely hammering in learning Keepa, because that is going to definitely make things a whole lot easier. I know I spent a ton of time manual sourcing when I first started, and now I won't even do it. I hate manual sourcing.
So much harder, yeah.
Yeah, storefront stocking, which I know you're a big proponent of, that especially for beginners. I would say those two things: learn Keepa and storefront stocking.
Yeah, well, the great thing about storefront stocking as a beginner product research method is that, like, you just know for a fact that people are getting something good somehow if the rank is good, because they wouldn't be taking the time to sell it if that wasn't the case, right? And if the price is either stable or going up, they're making money on it today. Otherwise, they'd be dropping their price, right? So then it comes down to the equation is like, okay, where does this item actually come from? The Google button in Seller Amp, for the most part, shows you that, right? And it's like, okay, what discounts exist to where I can make those items good, right? So I know, you know a bunch of them. You mind breaking down some of the, for beginner sourcers who might not be familiar, like the different ways you go about making items good?
Oh, well, yeah. Discounted gift cards. I remember, and I knew this from the beginning, but I remember maybe 2 or 3 months in, and I was, I had bought a few things already and selling, and I was like, wait a minute, I've never done the gift cards. And that was a huge, like, oh my God, what was I doing? I mean, sometimes you're going to get 10, 12, 13, 15% off on items. Like, that's huge. Knowing the websites, the ongoing coupon codes, the coupon code extensions, like Coupon Birds, and then the the cashback mechanisms and things like that, which I don't ever include in my ROI or anything like that. I kind of just look at that as gravy. But I'd say the coupon code extensions, the getting familiar with one thing that I another aha moment was a question you asked me, was knowing that I can I can really, there's a lot of money to be made from just a handful of websites. And if I just keep going back to that well, that's all you really need. And when you do that, you really get familiar with their coupon codes, their sales cycles, things like that. All things that are very important to generate more, make things profitable when they don't. Kohl's Cash, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the biggest disconnect for beginners, man, is that you go from expecting to find something good hanging out on a retailer, which will occasionally happen, won't happen most of the time, to making it good, realizing that you can use tax exempt on a lot of retailers, gift cards from Cardbear and Top Cash Back, looking for additional coupon codes that just pop up on the website, sign-up codes, right, that you can use again and again just by resubscribing to or using a catch-all email. And then there's extensions, Capital One Shopping, Coupon Birds, Cooper, like you mentioned, that's a gem too as well. So overall, what would you tell yourself as a beginner seller, if you could talk to yourself as a new seller, what would you say that would help you find success in half the time? Just overall general tips for newer sellers to be a successful part-time seller with a 9-to-5 like you've been able to do.
I would tell myself, just because those Sephora lipsticks are $5 doesn't mean you need to go in and buy them all, because I probably still have a few of those laying around here. No, but that leads me to the real answer is learning Keepa. Like, do that first, because that did happen to me. I saw, oh, hey, there's a Sephora sale. Look at, they're $5. This one's going for 15, but variations. One of those may have never even had a sale. It's looking a little bit deeper. So I would tell myself, lock yourself in a room and learn Keepa.
100%.
And then get active on social media, find other sellers, and just start getting your crew together. Even if it's just one or two other people to kind of bounce stuff off.
Oh, that's all you need. You know what I mean? That you really rock with and trust. I get excited just thinking about it, because I know that's exactly what I did too. Like, it just fires me up, because I know what it takes, everything. And then for people who want to see both your takes on the Kansas City Chiefs, right, as well as your success selling Amazon, where can they find you on social media, man?
J Brown FBA at Twitter, and I'm not on Instagram.
Got you. Cool. So yeah, we'll get that link in the description. So y'all go follow my boy Jeremy right there, and excited to see what you do in 2025 and beyond, man. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Hey, Miles, thank you, and thanks for all the support. It's been great working with you. Appreciate
100%. Yeah, keep up the good work. Quick interruption from the video, guys, and word from our sponsor, Me. If you're interested in personalized one-on-one help growing your Amazon business or starting your Amazon business in 2025, now's a great time to join my coach program. Just go down below to the link in the description, put in your information and apply, so we can see if it makes sense to work together. If you want direct, personalized one-on-one help from me, 3-group coaching calls a week, all my coupons, tips, tricks, and strategies. You want to be around other Amazon sellers crushing the game, and you want to get together one-on-one on Zoom to live source products with me, take a look at that at the link in the description. Back to the video. Got you. So we got the man away from the back to school vibes here today. What's your profit the past 30 days?
Profit is probably going to be around 18 to 20, depending.
Exactly.
I haven't paid my prep center yet, but it's going to be around there.
Sure. So not bad at all for being fairly new to this as a college kid, man. Talk about where you were about a year ago when you were just getting into everything.
Yeah. So I started watching your videos maybe probably around a year ago, because I got my first sale August 29th of last year. So July, June, I started watching your videos, and then just learning, starting from zero.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you're from Miami, but you go to college in Pennsylvania. So you have the two best places people are from. Obviously, you joke around about that and everything. But talk through basically your current setup. So you're in college, obviously, full-time. You have a prep center running Amazon biz. Give us a full, big picture breakdown of what your day-to-day and your Amazon biz actually looks like.
Yeah, definitely. So right now, wake up, talk to some sellers, see if any sales are popping for the day, check my Excel with the prep center, check everything's good, all the inventory got there, talk to them if they need anything. Then usually right now, since I'm in break, I have all day. So usually in the afternoon, just source a little bit, or, if I have to, anything for my Amazon Health or anything like that. And then, from 5 and up, I don't really have to do anything. It's with the prep center running, it's pretty easy now. Like on the physical side, I don't really have to do much.
And the key here, though, is Daniel put in a ridiculous amount of hard work to get to that point. Because obviously, I think you did like 70K in rev, like just in like your fourth month or so. Last December, that's way different than right now where you have a remote Amazon business. So talk about kind of the initial momentum period of like getting those first couple sales and starting to really build momentum and figure out that this was something you really wanted to pursue.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, my first sale was last year, August 29th. So I'm coming up on a year. And in the beginning, I wasn't in your program already. So I was doing all FBA, which is not what I would recommend to
When
people
you're a
just
beginner.
starting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
talk through why as well. So talk through why it makes sense to do FBM when you're newer.
Yeah, definitely. So in the beginning, you're like me, you're probably gonna be low on capital. You're not gonna have much capital, so you want to move it quicker. So with FBM, you don't have to send everything in, wait for it to check in. So you're going to get your money faster, and it's just gonna help with your cash flow. So that's one thing for beginners. And also, you can order items online, wait for them to get here, and then you can post them right away. Or also, like you taught me, you can order them, pick it up same day at the store, and that's when your cash flow really starts moving really, really quickly.
Yeah, because what you need when you're a beginner, at least from my perspective, right, is proof of concept and validation that this is like actually something that's not just people talking about it on the internet doing. You got to do a bunch of work to get that initially, but the difference between ordering a product OA and then waiting 1 to 3 weeks for it to check into FBA versus ordering a product online and then listing it the day it gets here and starting to get proof of concept on that is incredibly helpful. Now, for the seller who maybe has seen some other videos online talking about FBM not being as good or not being able to get the buy box, what are some specific tactical FBM tips you have that have been helpful for you on the journey?
Yeah, so the first thing 100% you need is 0 day handling time. That's the key to getting more buy box. And especially if you're smaller, it's not going to be as hard because you probably have less products to send out every day. So people get scared of the 0 day because they have to send it same day, but I think you can handle it pretty easy as a beginner. And then always staying on top of repricing, that's also super key. So either if you're very small, you probably don't need a repricer, but once you're 10, 15 ASINs, I feel like you definitely should invest in that because it really helped me.
Yeah, so definitely that. I'd say repricer 10, 15 ASINs, very similar to you said, and then definitely having your shipping template set up correct. So a lot of people right now for the back to school rush are seeing, especially on the FBM side of things, like because you can charge a lot for expedited next day and 2 day. For that, some people are charging customers $32 for a 2-pound item for expedited shipping, but then they're shipping it out same day and only paying $12, and they might have just tripled the profit per unit on that SKU, right? So that's another really good pro tip as well on top of 0 day handling time, and make sure your repricing's dialed as well. And when you're a new seller not using repricer, you're just going to match buy box primarily right there. So the elephant in the room is that most sellers struggle with product research when they're newer, right? So what are some tips that have been really helpful for you in regards to product research, both methodologies and then like discounting methods as well?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I feel like most sellers, they're kind of lost. They don't know every single tool that's out there to, increase their profit. Um, So definitely in the beginning, it was just, watching a lot of videos, seeing what other sellers did. Um, but I didn't know, especially about like discounted gift cards. Also, the cashback is really key. It helps you a lot, especially like some bigger websites, they have really good cashback. So those two things are very important. And also, if you do have sales tax, some websites do allow like the sales tax exempt, which you do have to get. But I think those three are definitely key.
Yeah, and then definitely coupons, right? Capital One Shopping is going to be big for that. The free Chrome extension, and then even just looking around on Google. Like for example, if y'all just Google shop WSS coupons, you're actually going to find the first link on Google is like some fire coupons. There's a lot of sites like that too. Talking to customer service, and then just being around other people in the same environment on the same mission, right? Which we'll talk about a little bit later too. So I know you've always been good with OA. You ever do any retail arbitrage as well? Because you live in a fairly remote area college-wise, which was fairly similar to me. But I was still able to make up some good ground with retail arbitrage using what I got. So what's been your strategy with that, if any?
Yeah, so I've always sold OA only. But in the beginning, I just kind of wanted to understand how everything worked. And what really helped me was just going to Marshalls, going to Ross, everything, scanning. Because in the beginning, you barely know anything about the products, how they move, anything. So that really helped me understand how the products work. Even if it was just scanning a product and seeing it was gated, and ungating it first try because it was an auto ungate, or understanding that I had to get an invoice, it just cleared up a lot of questions that I had just by going 2 or 3 times to Ross or Marshalls and then scanning and seeing how everything worked.
Yeah, and the cool thing, bro, is that don't cost any money. That's the best thing, is that's free to go get those reps in. It's free to dig around with some online arbitrage as well, right? Just doing storefront stocking going to be the best way as a beginner. And overall, just taking action on this as quick as possible, right? Because selling on Amazon might not be right for you, but the quicker you can get to it and really commit to different stuff, you're going to find what is for you best. Like I had a call with one guy in the program yesterday, and I was like, all right, there's a really good product at Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx. Go check it out. And he sends me a picture that night of big bags of product. I'm like, this dude's going to win. No wonder he's cooking already, right? And that's a beautiful thing, man, as well. So another thing that's was incredibly helpful for me was, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? Being in the community, finding other young kings to build with, right? So talk about how that's been important to you, or maybe it hasn't been as important to you as it is for most people, right? Talk through, the networking, the community side of things.
Yeah, definitely. So in the beginning, even when like you said, I did 70K in December, I was just kind of like focused on what I was doing and doing everything alone. So I didn't really pay attention to the community, didn't listen. Like I was posting a little bit, but I wasn't really, reaching out to other sellers. But now this year, even though I'm, doing higher numbers in that, and it's not Q4, the community really has helped me, and I know you always said this, but it's just so much less work and you're doing bigger numbers, which is crazy because and sometimes what I would say is don't even start a relationship just, for benefiting
Oh
off.
yeah, definitely not. That's the
Like
worst way to do it.
the,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best relationships I have today with sellers that I've met online is definitely just, we started talking about, either school, they went to the same school as me, or they're from the same area, and you build a real relationship, and then, the work comes along with it.
Yeah, and we were literally organizing just prior to this, going to play pickleball with a bunch of guys in Miami that live around here as well, which will be pretty fun too, and everything. And basically, if you're unfamiliar with the essentially selling Amazon is a unique language. Very few people speak that language, and it's a lot harder if you aren't around other people that are speaking that language. And once again, that side of things is free, right? We have a free Discord community. Obviously, Daniel's in my coaching program, which obviously is a little bit different and everything. But you want to get around people that either have what you want or are working on what you want as well, right? Because that's going to make solving these problems a lot quicker. And, Mr. Beast, like the biggest YouTuber in the world, talks about that all the time. So that's an incredibly helpful thing. We're in the heart of back to school right now. Q4 is coming up. You were one person, as do many people, who saw aggressive growth during Q4. So talk about what that season's actually like and what people can expect that are going into their first Q4 as October and November, December roll around in a couple months.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when I started, I kind of lost out. I came in like at the end of back to school, so I didn't take advantage of that. But thankfully, I got in right before Q4, which is crazy. You're just gonna see products moving so much faster and a higher ROI. So you already have two great advantages there. And also, something I saw was just crazy growth as more capital came in. Because there's two things I didn't really believe when people said it to me was you're gonna run out of money and you wish you would have bought more. And those two things I felt after Q4, because it's just you order something, you post it at VM right away, and then same day you can sell 10, 20 units. It's just crazy, crazy momentum that you're gonna have in Q4.
Yeah, and the big thing is just building the groundwork now. And that, we're filming this August 13th, right? There's still money to be made back to school wise, especially guys on like soccer, football, and volleyball gear. even in like September and October, right? And there's no necessarily like sourcing for back to school or sourcing for Q4. There's just finding stuff that's profitable today, especially when you're a beginner. Now, when you're advanced, similar to Daniel, you can headhunt certain niches of products that are going to do better different times of the year. However, right, it does make a lot more sense to just, focus on what you're finding profitable here. In terms of transitioning from being an FBM Chad scaler, right, to having a nice remote OA to prep center biz, what did that process look like?
Yeah, definitely. So how it looked like FBM was just in my tiny college room, having all the boxes there, sometimes on the weekends it would be like, I think there was one day I worked like 11, 12 hours just packing everything. So now January I got my prep center and it's just so much easier for me to handle my time because I don't have to physically, be doing all the work. The prep center handles everything. And how I like to think of it is now it's more of a business for me. Before it was just me, doing everything. Now I actually do have an actual business, that I don't have to physically, be doing everything in order to run the whole system. So I have more time to source, to network, to do everything that is not just physical labor that I feel like anybody else could do.
Yeah, and you build that over time once you earn the right to, and that now Daniel's confident he can buy a lot of product. He's finding discounts that are hard to find. He's finding products that it's hard for new sellers to make those numbers work. So naturally, he can go buy heavier. He can wait longer to sell. He doesn't have to just do FBM. Are you even doing any FBM this back to school season?
I'm doing FBM, but through my prep center too.
Boom, there we go. Even better, right? So some prep centers are going to be able to do FBM and all that. And, same thing during Q4. You obviously got to set up the relationship, the correct way in regards to that. So having fun with OA, obviously. Any wholesale private label plans? Or are we hanging out just in OA for the time being?
Right now, I'm doing all OA, but for Q1, I'm hoping to have some wholesale mixed in there as well.
Sure. And it just makes obviously sense. You go make 30, 40, 50K profit in December, and then you'll have a whole bunch more cash, whole bunch more confidence as well, right? And, money to hire VAs and such to help out with that process as well, which is going to really be, really helpful too and everything. So seriously, we can't understand enough how important it is to be fully ready to roll for Q4, confident and stuff. And that's going to take getting going now, right? As we finish up here, Daniel, what are some tips you would give to your younger self a year ago that would help you find success a lot quicker?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, the first thing, like I said before, FBM, you have to, in the beginning, is just gonna have so much faster cash flow. And I feel like for all beginners, they should start with that. And then also, obviously, it's gonna be hard when you're new, but try to not only see the data that's on your softwares, but also use your own data, and that's the best data in my opinion because it's real results. Because sometimes people look at the estimated sales and things like that, but that's not exactly what's going on in the market. It's obviously an estimate, but I feel like that's the best data that all the new sellers should be looking at.
Sure. Absolutely, man. And then for people who want to keep up with your journey, see what you're up to, see those big, beautiful Q4 box and bars and profit numbers on the way, where can people find you on social media?
So right now I only have Twitter. It's my last name, Coronado FBA.
Cool. Absolutely. So I remember when you were a brand new seller about February of last year?
Yep, February last
Right?
year.
Getting going. You have a successful career, still have a successful career, 9 to 5 as well. Started out part-time. What have you done so far in that almost year and a half with online arbitrage specifically?
Yep. So I am right now on rolling 12-month, 1.3 million. So we're pretty consistent at this point, somewhere around 120 to 140. We're starting to get really geared up for back to school. So taking the lessons from last year and getting ready to bring that into this year's go around for back to school and for Q4.
Yeah, so you have a very rare case where you're making 6 figures in profit part-time selling on Amazon, which is a very aspirational thing for a lot of people, far from a typical thing though, right? You got other stuff going on in your life, family, career, etc. It can be a big leap to even start selling on Amazon, let alone build really successfully part-time. So what made you get going, kind of inspired you? Like what kind of motivated you and what was the goal and what are the goals?
Yeah, I to start out like this I wasn't even expecting this, right? I think that's the biggest thing. So I came from a reseller background back in 99, did the old eBay flipping as a little kid. Fast forward a couple decades, right? And
got into the botting community a little bit, started kind of spending in that space, and I started seeing the writing on the wall, right? I still wanted to continue to have a side hustle, some extra income to be able to take the family on a vacation, to not really have any worries about, hey, where are we going? How are we going to spend it? And that was kind of the journey of that. So it was very much geared, and still can be for a lot of folks, right? You can make a couple extra $1,000s a month and be able to look at it as something as gradual. And I thought that was the most important thing is, hey, the time is of the essence. Still have full-time commitments, have 2 little girls and married. So there's a lot of things that go on the plate. So I didn't think in my wildest dreams it'd be like, hey, this is where I'd be at in this amount of time. But starting it out, right, that was the biggest thing, is just kind of gradually getting into it and then starting to learn along the way.
Yeah, and so in terms of getting into it, building the initial momentum, 0 to getting your first sales, 0 to getting your first couple thousand in sales a month, that's the hardest part by a mile, right? So talk through some of those initial pieces of building momentum. I bought 50 of this and it sold way quicker than I thought, or someone plugged me into this lead and this opportunity, right? Break down what it looked like to build that initial momentum, any specific inflection points, anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. So here's one thing I would say. If you're someone that's already a 9 to 5, you probably have some capital set aside on there. This was a big limiting belief for me initially, is I was spending a lot of time just trying to figure it out on my own. So I started finding a lot of your content, Miles. I started going through and finding out who was in the space, and then was able to get some mentorship. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Because now you're starting to take someone else's 10,000 hours and you're able to put that in. And I think that was a big part that helped with that first 3 months. The first 3 months of learning on Amazon, this is not a get rich quick scheme. You're going to be spending a lot of time learning how to do this properly. And there's going to be a delayed gratification that you have to go through and be able to say, okay, I probably won't find a product for a very long time of going through it, but I'm going to learn each of those fundamental steps, and that learning compounds on each other. So long-winded answer to say, the first 3 months were very much geared toward do some learning, apply the learning. Once you apply the learning, go back and do a couple items. I bought the first couple items that I bought way too deep on, and it took quite a few months to be able to remove it. But that was a lesson to learn, to be able to say, okay, now I know where I need to be looking at the charts a little bit differently. So some of those quote unquote early failures were some of the best learning experiences, because now I can use all of that into when I'm sourcing products and be able to find them quicker.
And that's the hard part, though, is it doesn't seem like a learning experience. It seems like, oh, crap, I just made this mistake here. But the cool thing is, right, you've done a great job of being active in the community, which that's completely free, right? Finding other people to work with, right? Now, when I'm back in Pennsylvania, we typically get together with like a big group of guys that happen to live locally. We've also made great connections with people, elsewhere too. So you want to kind of break down what that looks like, because it's very, very tough to quantify when you've never done it before, but we all get the good morning text. We're sending memes to each other, plugged in on different opportunities, right? So break down like what it actually looks like to be active in the community, have a good group of other sellers you're working with, because, it's something everyone should have, and very few people take the actual action steps required to get.
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception, and this was definitely for me as well, is like, hey, I'm introverted. I don't have, I'm not going to be good on camera. Nobody's going to be. They always start at 0, right? You just have to go out and put that initial video out there to be able to introduce yourself in the community and show that you care, right? If you're in this, you're asking good questions, folks are going to gravitate to you. Folks that have established themselves, they remember when they're new and they're answering questions there. And I think that's a big hack. You fire up the Twitter account, you post your first video. If you have anyone that's already existing in the community, ask them to pin your initial post to their Twitter feed so their followers see it and get a little bit of extra visibility when you're starting out. And that's so clutch, right? You get to choose your friends. You get to choose the folks that hold you accountable to this business model. Because let's be frank here, if you're someone that has a 9 to 5, you're probably coming home and you're a little bit tired, and you're going to need a little bit of a pick-me-up to go ahead and work a couple hours at night. There's nothing better than having someone that's doing the exact same thing as you are to be able to say, hey, where are we sourcing tonight? Hey, are there any good coupons? Are there any deals that are going on right now? And that's been the biggest piece, is not only when you have a failure, you learn from the other folks' failures so you don't make it again, but then you're getting exponential growth on what you're learning on the positive side. Hey, now I knew a new site that I didn't have to source because a buddy was doing it and that's what they like going after. So you're able to get so much more learning when you're doing it as a team activity.
Big time. And conveniently, like you said, you get to do it with people you like, right? And the social media side of things, it's not necessary, but there's a reason everyone that, pretty much everyone's like, yeah, man, I like, you ask someone who's like, just getting their first couple of sales, they got all these complicated tactics. And you ask the dude who's at 100K a month, making 15K a month profit, 20K a month profit. He's like, I just get on Zoom and me and my friends buy products, right? It's very simple at its core, but you got to pay down that ignorance debt initially and, build that up from the get-go, right? So what really looks like, whether you're part-time, full-time, doing all-in arbitrage successfully, couple suppliers you really like that you will understand how to get them, how to make items profitable on those websites, couple people you do it with, avoid mistakes, work together on different things. And, that's really all it takes. It just takes typically to find that 6 to 12 months of hard, consistent effort that you might not feel like you're getting massive results from. But it's just like, gardening or whatever, like you don't see the massive results until it starts to hit that exponential curve and you're rewarded handsomely if you stick around longer. And that. So you brought up a good point in terms of time management, right? Because, for people who are successful, they got other ways they're making money full time. What are some tips you have for those people where they're worried about time being the constraint?
Yeah, it's so there's always time, right? So think about your day. Do you really need to be watching the news? Do you really need to have that extra Netflix series? Like you're going to make a sacrifice and going back and thinking like, what is the original reason you're doing this? Do you want some extra time flexibility? Do you want more time with your family? Do you need a little extra cash on the side? There's going to be something that's going to be at your internal why of why you want to start this journey. And think about where there's some areas in your day where you can cut out some of that fluff. So for me personally, our journey is, hey, I know that I have the work day from the 8 o'clock to the 5 range. Spend time with the family from 5:30 to just about 8 o'clock every day, and from 8 to midnight, that's my time to work on the business. And there are some days that are way more difficult than others, but you just stay consistent with it, and you think you're not making progress, but when you start looking at things in weeks, months, quarters, and now greater than a year, the growth that you see in that period is something that you'll be proud of when you kind of look back on it.
Yeah, you just have to actually stick around enough to get lucky to see sales cycles. It's like, how many Amazon sellers start in January and quit by May and never even got to see a back to school, never even got to see a Q4? A lot of people. And conveniently, if you look at the inverse, every single person who's successful has been through multiple of them. Right? They've given themselves the time to get lucky. They've given themselves the time to learn year over year. So in your case, right, you're getting into your second back to school, second Q4 coming up here. What are some of those big takeaways you have from seeing the really seasonal opportunities play out last year that you think will, make a lot of essentially translate to bigger results this year?
All right. So if you're just starting out right now, you're going to go ahead and you're going to grab with each of these key milestones, go find the sellers that are at the top of the buy box when those key windows hit and export those storefronts. Save them in a spreadsheet so that way you have a quarter before that, these are the types of folks that you're going to be looking at. So biggest takeaway from last year to this year is when we talk about everybody wants a replen isn't necessarily something that you're always going to get on a month-to-month basis. It's going to be measured in years. It's cyclical. Every year there's going to be the same type of sales, the same quarters come around, and think like a consumer, right? So when it's time to buy things, know that you're going to be buying that at least a couple months ahead of time, or be thinking and planning in that type of manner. So that way you're hitting the stride when folks are going for and picking it up on convenience. So I think that's the biggest product hack from last year to this year is now I'm starting to take more diligent notes. So that way in 2025, next year, when we're coming around, now I have all the data from the past 2 years to be able to say, all right, this is what I'm going after. These are the things I missed last year that I should have bought, and going to double down on making sure I take advantage of them for that cycle.
Yeah, 2 additional nuggets with that is definitely the Seller Amp Google Sheets feature and then the Keepa tracking alerts, right? So cataloging inventory, and then with the Keepa tracking alerts, getting notified when stuff hits target profitability, right? In terms of where you need to be to make money if it's a coupon that just exists, perpetually. Right there. What are some other things that go into successful product research? So obviously gathering data from past years, right? What else in terms like Chrome extensions, coupons, drop some game for us in terms of product research, because that's the number one thing beginners struggle with.
Yeah, I think so. Anyone that's on your channel, Miles, will see a lot of the main things, the fundamentals that are there. I think in addition to the coupon extensions, you want to be able to think like an extreme couponer. At the end of the day, that's essentially what we're doing. So if you were trying to thrift like an extreme couponer, where would you go? You would go on Instagram and look for deals pages. You go on Reddit and go in deep into the forums to find
I've
different
done
areas.
that for oh man, sorry to interrupt, but for Essence back in the day, man. Oh my, that's a sleeper site for anyone this deep in the video too. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, the Reddit plug, man, big time.
Reddit feeds, like you need to just think of someone that's looking to find a good deal, right? And when you put yourself into that mindset, that's where you're going to find some of the best stuff. And it gets into the point that we talked about socials earlier. You can't be afraid to ask the questions, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to get an answer. Someone says no to you. That's the worst thing. Best case scenario, now you have a new coupon code that you can leverage. Now you know about a new sales cycle. Or if you're pairing up with a particular store or supplier and you get a chance to be friendly with one of the managers, now you're getting a text message to say, hey, we have some extra product that's in the back if you want to come pick it up. And that was something that in last Q4 was a big saving grace, because I wasn't able for a period of time to be able to send FBA inventory in where we were FBM in, where would go through, and I was able to make some in Q4 purchases, have them at the house, and it was directly from some of those relationships that were just local.
Yeah, so that's some game in terms of RA too, right? Store pickups are huge, guys. How you can source and see what your local locations have with it without even going in there. I was literally doing that today with one of our guys, and he was making sales like the next day, and it was crazy. He didn't even pick the inventory up yet. He had just listed it because he knew his local store had it, and so that, which adds risk, obviously. But if you're confident in the retail, it can totally be a good thing too. So with all in arbitrage, right? Got to be hip to coupon codes, discounted gift cards on Card Bear and Top Cashback are really important too. All the extensions, Capital One Shopping. What's your favorite online arbitrage coupon extension?
Yeah, Coupon Bird, Cooper. I basically go through all of them. So what I'll do is in the top, there's a really cool extension that you can use called Extensify. So when you go in there, you're going to start Extensity. You're going to start seeing, hey, I have a ton of extensions that are there. So what I'll do is I'll turn a lot of them off, put on the key ones that I need for sourcing, and just kind of let them go through the picture. So I'll use that a lot. I'm more of a techie too. So if you right click on a web page, you can see source code. So sometimes there'll be certain things that will give you some hints of ways to find discounts as well.
Yeah, and that's not necessary, but it definitely doesn't hurt, right? Because that's taking your past expertise and implementing it into online arbitrage. And that's, really all you can do is take skill sets and translate them, build new skill sets, etc. Right there. And it's just like, it's very tough to consider doing online arbitrage at a high level when if you've been doing this solo mission for like a couple months, you equate selling on Amazon to going on the computer late at night, banging my head on the screen. When online arbitrage for you is, and for me, it's getting on Discord with our friends, sourcing the XYZ site sale that just started, right? Being prepared for the XYZ sale that was great last year during Prime Day, that most likely will be good during Prime Day this year too. Different sites will release ahead of time what their sales are going to be, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with that you really nicely get when you're really, really deep in the weeds. So you've been able to build good expertise in online arbitrage. You mentioned a little bit about RA too, some kind of hybrid arbitrage types of vibes. You do any wholesale stuff, or are we primarily just sticking with OA?
I do have a couple different relationships that we set up for wholesale that we incorporate in it. And it depends on the time of year too, right? So as we're starting to get into back to school and Q4, there's going to be higher opportunity in terms of the margins on the OA side. In Q1, the sales cycles are generally not quite as frequent. It's some of the harder times for online arbitrage when relative to the year. So those are some great times to put in some of the wholesale orders. So right now, I look at it as, hey, you want to make sure that you have opportunities in each of those. Look at, what your cash flow looks like for that month, and then make decisions based off of that. So majority right now is OA in this period, and then Q1 and Q2 generally have a little bit more on the wholesale side as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot less holidays in Q1, right? Like even Valentine's Day wasn't that good, but then in Q4, right, October, November, December, there's a holiday like every week, pretty much, right? And it's the big time for consumer spending. So that's, makes a lot of sense. While wholesale is very intimidating when you just started OA, it's not intimidating when you've been doing OA for a year or 2 years. And one of the suppliers you buy from for OA hits you up and is like, yo, like you're buying a lot from our website. You want to just buy wholesale? And like that first wholesale account came to you, right? You didn't even go to it, right? Which is, I've literally seen that, for certain people on certain OA sites as well. So what else, if you could go back and tell Nick, who was just getting started selling on Amazon, like what are you telling him to help him find success a lot quicker?
Yeah, I would have started socials straight from day one. I started a couple months into the process where I was starting to post more. And there's nothing better than looking back on that journey
Oh
and
my
seeing,
God.
okay, where were some of those key milestones that occur? Because you do kind of forget at certain points of where you were at in some of those the earlier states. So I definitely I would started socials a little bit earlier, because literally my best friend group right now was directly as a result of that. You're getting a phone call when those site sales come up, in terms of when there's times to buy. Like, there's so much leverage that you get from doing it. So I'd say that's number one. And number two, track everything. You want to make sure everything is tracked, from the site sales to the orders that you're purchasing. Having really good data just puts you into a position not just to be a good Amazon seller, but also to start becoming a really good business owner. And that's the ultimate goal here. Is if you start to see some success in this business model, there's going to be other opportunities that can come to you, and it's skill sets that you can use in the rest of your life, regardless of what you want to do.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, right? On the side of meeting other Amazon sellers, meeting other online business people in general, very small chance you're going to find those people locally in person. Now,
Yep.
Conveniently, in our case, we happen to live, within an hour of each other. But either way, we wouldn't have met just randomly in person, right?
Yep.
Or most likely not. We met, through the internet. And now you get to do software if you want to. You get to do consulting if you want to, right? You have good connections in other types of business models as well, logistics, prep center if you wanted to, as well, which is pretty cool too. And I know you've actually expanded that a little bit with the Chrome extension, man. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So I think so. In my 9 to 5, I work as a software engineer and architect. So that's an area of a skill set and a passion that I've been leveraging. Now, applying that into the Amazon business, I started seeing that certain sites would have some key data that we're looking for. How much to buy, right? What's the inventory look like? What's the prices of those for that? So I wrote an extension back in January to find cold stock count. Now, since then, started to document the journey. We have another one that's starting to pull in product feeds. So being able to have extensions to the different websites, what are the UPCs for those? What are the prices that they're getting to? So we get into some more of the data. So I use that as initial test. Now we're starting to do that within a product known as Linkscopic that's free to download, and we'll likely continue to expand that out into other areas to build software for the community.
Yeah, and you can't just, or you don't want to just be an Amazon seller, right? Because who knows, Amazon might not be around in 10 years, but your skills, your experiences, the people you meet, that's what's going to translate to other opportunities down the line. And the more you can get into the community, the more those opportunities present themselves too, and everything. So as we finish up here, Nick, where can people follow you on social media, and where can they check out the extensions, man?
Yep. Yeah. So Nick Spizak _ on all socials, and in the Chrome Web Store, there's the Linkscopic Copilot.
It's been cool seeing your growth the past 8 months or so, because you joined the program in early May or late April, right?
I think late April, I believe.
Cool, right? And you were, completely brand new seller, right? Talk about what you've been able to do since then.
Yeah, so I started out in April. So I started really in March, and I really hadn't had a first sale till April. And then towards the end of April is when I wanted to get into Miles's program, because I've always been doing side hustles and stuff. So if I was going to start Amazon, I was like, all right, I need to take it serious, because I wasn't really liking going to school. So I was just looking for something to do, besides going there.
Yeah. And so you just turned 20, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy the way, I guess age deflation with making money online. Cause you said Abe was really the one where you're like, all right, if he can do it, I can do it,
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I was looking at it. I'm like, okay, when I was in high school, I was just flipping shoes. But if I'd have had a business model that was much more scalable, when I was in school, then I would have cut my success from being at 20 making what I make now to probably 18.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing with selling on Amazon is dude, I was talking about this yesterday, but a lot of people come from a different area of business, like eBay flipping or garage selling or flipping houses, for example, or flipping shoes the way you and I did, right? And you kind of take those skills and translate them to a bigger vehicle, right? Because, selling on Amazon's, multiple $100 billion industry, right? So it just provides an opportunity to, go further and everything, right? So you're coming off your best month ever. What was December like?
So December was sweet, man. So I think I did right over 80,000 in sales and then 20K in profit, which that kind of margin I wouldn't say is like super typical at like
Completely
25%.
agree. Yeah,
But
completely agree. Yeah.
but it all depends on like what you're finding. So like I was lucky enough to find like a couple really good ASINs that I was able to sell in conjunction with stuff that I was already sending in months prior. So then it all just came together and I was able to restock those same ones that I was flipping FBM. And then it really took off.
Yeah, that's an important thing to understand if you're a newer seller too, is you really, as you get into business, you see the 80-20 rule really play out, and that like 80% of your results come from 20% of your inputs, 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your ASINs, along those lines, right? Same thing with like suppliers, for example, too, for online arbitrage, like your favorite websites, as well too. And you're still in college these days, right?
So I actually dropped out. So I dropped out in August, dude. I literally dropped out and I was making like $2,000 a month. I was just like, I have so much confidence that something's going to work here. I just knew it was like, if I wanted to make it work, I needed to have more time. So
sure. And it's like, obviously that's not necessary. There's a ton of people selling, that are, twice our age, right? That are, selling successfully part-time. But, the cool thing is in your case, right? College is always going to be there if you want it, right? It's cheaper. Yeah. I mean, it may be even free, for example, and everything. So it's always going to be there if you need it, right? But how does it feel to kind of, see yourself really break out the past couple months? Because when was your first 10K profit month?
So my first 10K profit month was actually in December. But before that, I was doing consistent like 6K a month for like 3 months. So I was already kind of building up a lot of what it takes to just get from like even like 5 to 10K. Like, because a lot of the stuff you do, I feel like when you go from 0 to like 3K, then you're just doing more of how to get from like 3 to 7 and then 7 to 10 and then 10 to 20. Like you just kind of do more. You go deeper on some stuff that worked better. You lock in better relationships with suppliers, and you kind of just keep looping the same stuff while adding simultaneously more things into your store.
Yeah, I'd say more and better, right? But when you're a newer seller, you have to learn everything the first time. Yeah. You got to learn how to make a shipment, got to learn how to list products, got to learn how to read seller amp data, right? And that takes time naturally, right? And that's, completely normal, right? And you can't expect this stuff to work. Like, at this point, you've been at it almost a year and you probably still feel like you know nothing. You know what I mean?
Facts. Like I still got I'll be active on Twitter all the time. Like if I got a question, I'm throwing it up on Twitter, letting other people kind of give me some ideas, because there's still a ton I don't know even. So
yeah, 100%. Because like, for example, like your storefront price still has under 100 reviews. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right. Well, exactly. Right. And the cool thing is there's, when you do storefront stalking, right, all the time, you're going to see sellers that have 500 reviews, right? So you run the numbers. Okay, that person's got 10x the reviews. They must have made 10x the money. And maybe their average sale price is higher than you, where it could be even higher, right? Potentially with less sales, or, it's harder to get reviews, so on and so forth, as well. So what was the moment that things really clicked for you selling on Amazon? Because you've been at it, 8-9 months, right? But when were you like, okay, holy crap, like this actually works,
Yeah, so I would say that came probably, it was a mix of things, because like that kind of happened, when you get your first sale, you get like a little buzz. You're like, okay, this is working out. And then you start to buy more of certain things. You get confident. So it kind of comes in waves, I would say. And you kind of go through seasons as to when you start to believe in what you're doing more and more. I would say I really just believed in it when I dropped out, because I knew that I had to make it work or else I was going to go back to school. So right when I started making like 6K a month, I saw that like, okay, this is how we keep it maintained. This is how we keep it consistent. And then obviously December was really eye-opening as well.
Sure. Yeah. And that's only your first December too, right? Let alone like future ones, as you build more leverage, maybe mix in some wholesale or some private label, for example, too. And then you were working at Target when you got started, right?
Yeah. So I was working at Target and I was hitting like all the loops I could off of that with that 10% team member discount. So
makes sense right there. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, what you can do across the year when you really go hard at the stuff or anything, right? And really take it seriously. That's the key though, is it takes, significantly more effort than you think normally. And that, a year ago, you had played around with some shoe reselling, predominantly used shoes, right?
Oh yeah, dude. I was doing like used shoes for probably 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, same. I did a bunch of stuff like that too, right? And then you find a better vehicle and you go from, working at Target, being in college. No one really likes college, right? It is a necessary thing for a lot of things, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Having now had a month where you made multiple 5 figures in profit as a beginner, right? Still someone who's new to this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? That shows that if you continue to take the right actions, you'll continue to see improvement. It'd be unreasonable for you not to go ahead and do that too. So on the product research side of things, right? What are you actually doing to locate these winning products that make sense profit-wise, so on and so forth? Because that's really the number one struggle for beginners.
Yeah. So I would say, so it just depends, right? When you start out, the best thing you can do is find what actually sells on Amazon. So like I came from a shoe background, and me and Miles, when we got connected, he was like, hey, start looking at certain shoes, start looking at stuff you were already familiar with. And then you get more into like the random stuff that sells on Amazon. So like you got to think as a new person who's hopping into this, everything sells on Amazon. You just aren't going to be able to find like your best product by looking up like a brand that you know of on the front page of Amazon. So I would say in the beginning, definitely storefront stalking, looking at other people's stores, seeing what actually moves. And then I'm even training my assistant this right now. Like once you start looking at what moves, you start to develop an eye for certain products that come from certain places. And then once you start developing that and you start testing things and you go really wide in the beginning, then you have a large pool to play around with. You get a lot of data on your side. And then as you just continue to go wide, you get to develop more products that are probably going to maybe become replenishable, or you get to learn certain coupon sales during times of the year. So I would say just go wide in the beginning, reverse source, and that's probably gonna be your best way.
Yeah, that's the best thing. So if anyone's unfamiliar, right, reverse sourcing and storefront stocking are the same thing, right? It's where you start out and find what other people are selling, right? You look inside their storefront and then it's like, okay, this seller's got 24 things from this brand, 75% of them, the sales rank's pretty good. They have to be making money. They wouldn't do all this work if they weren't making money on it. Therefore, they can make money on it. I can go ahead and make money on it. And then it becomes, okay, let me Google this. Let me see, where it's carried, right? What retailers carry it. And then it's like, okay, let me go ahead and, make this stuff profitable. For example, and you mentioned you have a virtual assistant now as well. Break down how that's been going.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, it's been tough. She's good at the back end side of things. So like all the admin work that I have her do. But sourcing is really a skill, man. Like if you're looking to get a VA, understand it's not going to be like this magical thing that makes your business like 2x overnight. They're people too. So, the same way you learned and how it took you months to get really good at what you do is the same way your assistant's going to learn. So it all comes down to how you train them, but it's been going all right. I'd say, like I said, admin stuff, she's pretty good. She nails it pretty well. But we're just now starting to get her really accustomed to sourcing and kind of passing down the torch from what I know down to her.
Yeah, transferring that knowledge, right, and kind of just figuring it's like, okay, if I have to spend $4 an hour to have a great person in the Philippines help me out, it makes sense for me to invest some time into training them and making sure they're good. Because it took me a while to get product sourcing. I know it took you a while to get good at product sourcing too. Of course, it's going to take someone else a little while too, as well, and everything too. And what made you want formal help specifically? Because obviously there's a bunch of good stuff out there on YouTube, and I'll be the first one to say, you don't necessarily need formal help, but it can be a really good tool. So what was kind of your mindset behind wanting to join the coaching program?
Yeah, so mine was mainly my situation. Like I didn't like college. I didn't like working Target was fun when I was working with the boys, but like once they went to school, it was just like, dude, this sucks. So it was my situation. I mean, I always wanted to make like internet money or whatever. So I was like, okay, I had a friend who was doing Amazon, and then I had a guy from the sneaker background who was doing Amazon. And I've never been one to be skeptical of like, okay, does certain things work? Because to me, it's like too many things work nowadays for it to be a scam. So I'm like, okay, this works. I'm just going to take the shortcut, try and get as much information from paying somebody who looks like the most reputable person. So it was just my situation, I would say, that made me really want to join and take it serious.
Yep, that makes sense. And now, being a full-time seller, you don't have to go to school anymore. You don't have to work at Target anymore. Break down what your day-to-day actually looks like, because there's probably a lot of, younger kids watching this that might aspire to be like that, but want to see kind of behind the hood on like, what does an average day look like? How do you manage your time? So on and so forth.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, like I'm always working, and maybe it's just because I like it, but it's not something that like, okay, I made 5 figures and now I just get to take the foot off the gas. because I'm still in the period of like scaling. So I'll wake up. I'm really not an early person. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'll wake up at like 11. But I'll probably like hit some weights, go to the gym. And then right around 1 is when I start working. So I'll do like work sessions to where start of my day, I'll check on, what the VA did, prep center stuff. So just making sure everything is getting accounted for there. So a lot of admin stuff the first hour of the day. And then the next 2 to 3 hours I'll spend sourcing. So I'll look through my emails, see if any of my suppliers have sent me any changes to sales cycles they're doing. And then if not, then I'm going out looking for more brands, looking for more products, take a break, kind of eat whatever I got to do. And then I'll hop back on for another, maybe like 3 hours ish, work again, another break, and then maybe like a couple hours with the VA just to end out the night. So I'm still putting up like 8-9 hour days. Just because that's
what it takes, though. Yeah, and if you like it too, it's easier to do as well. Yeah. And one of the main drivers of success for people on Amazon, in my opinion, is enjoying it, right? But what types of things do we enjoy in life? Things you do with people you like, right? And that's the biggest missing part of the equation, in my opinion, for a lot of newer sellers is they just don't have other Amazon sellers they work with. And I know you've done a great job of that. So break down like the networking and finding the boys and what that dynamic's like.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I don't source with really anyone. Like it's pretty much been all me, but in the beginning, it was very, very helpful to get connected with people in your same situation, even if you don't know them on like a personal level or anything.
Yeah, no, you're almost guaranteed no one you're gonna know does this. Yeah,
right. So like the best thing you can do, literally make a Twitter account, because I know Instagram, like people got their personal Instagrams. They don't want to, be throwing stuff out there before they're successful and whatnot. So I get it. Make a Twitter though. Twitter's way more low key, and you get way more niche down with their algorithm. So once you start posting content about what you're doing, people will gravitate and they'll start relating to it. And then you'll just grow a following. Like I was able to grow over 1,000 followers in like 7-8 months. And that's 1,000 followers of people who are in the same position as me, some better, some under, some the same. And I'm talking to people every day. So like, even if it's not some of the guys that I found from when I joined Miles's program and we started together, I still got a couple of them around, but I'm still talking to a bunch of people who are either ahead of me or some people that want advice, and all that just talking and networking really helps you solve problems a lot faster than if you were doing it all by yourself and not knowing anyone.
And how much money does that cost?
$0, bro. It's free.
That's the crazy thing. That's the crazy thing, right? But it's just because so few people exist in these airwaves and even give themselves a chance to get the leverage and get the opportunity that it just ends up being a great thing. So you've done a phenomenal job of that. Like you're always posting stuff. I see updates from you. You know what I mean? When stuff goes wrong, you're asking people.
Oh yeah.
It's cool, right?
Not ashamed, bro.
Yeah, and it's cost no money too, which is excellent as well, right? So that's awesome, right? And then if you could go back to when you were a newer seller, what would you tell yourself that would help you succeed a lot quicker?
Yeah, so I don't know, because I think my advice to newer sellers, maybe not to myself, kind of two things. Like if you were in the same situation as me and like you knew that, okay, I'm going to go to school, but like I don't want to use this degree, I want to do something on my own, like take it serious, because it is real. Like this is not just somebody trying to sell you something. Like it is definitely real. So if you're a beginner, like put yourself out there, go very wide, test a lot of products. Do not expect to make even like $5,000 a month in like your first 6 months. Like it may happen, it may not. It just depends how serious you are. Also capital constraints, of course, but just learn the game, like fall in love with what you're really trying to build. And I think you got the best shot as long as you put yourself out there and you just enjoy what you do.
Yeah, you just get in the mix, right? In that you're putting in your inputs as well as you're getting around and doing your best to find other guys or gals that are in a similar situation. You really put it a good way by saying like similar situation, whether it's like same interests, same background, same location or different location, right? You just got to do what you can do to find those other cool people. And it was the same exact way for me with, my guys do the Buy Box Bandits with on the podcast and everything, right? And just consume a bunch of content, take a bunch of action, get around people on the same path, and nothing bad happens, right? Or it's really tough to get in a worse situation being around good people and doing good things every day, doing stuff that is productive and avoiding doing things that is not productive as well. And so for people who want to, follow your journey, see some of your occasional hot takes and such on the timeline, man, where can they follow you?
Right here, actually, I added my Twitter and Instagram right there. So yeah, on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram more like a personal page, but Twitter you'll definitely get a lot of questions, a lot of sauce, a lot of just a bunch of random stuff about Amazon.
And you see your journey too. That's a powerful thing. Imagine how cool it's going to be in 3 years looking back on your post from today. Cool, right? I am coming off a big December, man. Tell everyone what you're able to do in December, sales and profit wise.
Yeah, so we were our best 30-day running average was 70K. So that was as high as we got. I think December alone we finished at about 60K. That best run there was like November 20th to like December 20th. I mean, it really just took off. In terms of profit, I think we finished around 20K profit between 25K maybe between November and December. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge step up for us, and we reinvested all that back into the business. So that's making, this January really great, compared to what we were doing before the holiday rush. So
yeah. And the cool thing is you're a part-time seller, right? So what do you do full-time?
I'm an engineer full-time, and my brother, who I'm partners with in the business, he's also an engineer. So we're both water, wastewater engineers. And, I mean, it's pretty demanding. It takes up a lot of time, right? So, most of our grind is in the evenings. We both get off work about 5 o'clock, and we pretty much just grind it out until bed, but we enjoy doing it, man. Like, we love doing it, so it's a lot of fun.
There's definitely like a correlation I've seen between like engineers and being successful selling Amazon, because it's problem solving, you know what I mean? Just like professionally that you do, right? So then you give yourself the outlet of a side hustle, like selling on Amazon, where you own the upside, right? Where it's not just essentially do XYZ tasks for XYZ amount of hours, get a certain amount of money. Right now, it's get good at a skill, make lots of money after a little while. Right. So do some background on yourself, man. Like talk about, why you got into, Amazon FBA and, what made you want to get started.
Yeah. So, I was really just looking for a side hustle to make some extra money, something to knock down the student loans, is really how I got started with it. And I actually started with private label. January of 2023, I launched a private label product. So, I designed it. I did all the drawings and schematics for it and stuff. I got it manufactured in China, had it brought over, and I had, limited knowledge at that point and experience with just the Amazon marketplace and stuff. And, going back, if I did that product again, I think I could make it a lot more successful now, just knowing a bit more stuff. But, so I really didn't do so hot with that. So, we pulled that product out and pivoted, started to look, how else can we make this work? So we started digging around with some wholesale. And we started to quickly realize, all right, we're going to need a lot more upfront leverage to get some of these price points we want on a lot of things, so we're like, all right, how can we get some money rolling? And that's how we kind of, pivoted into OA and RA. And we did OA and RA there for 6 or 8 months, probably closer to 8 months. And we were really stagnating, I mean, we were doing 10, 15K a month. I mean, we were coming out profitable, but we just weren't able to, get over that hump. And that's whenever we joined your program, and we really were able to start taking off a bit. So
yeah, which was probably July or August, right? Or maybe June.
It would have been like really late July or early August.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool.
I
yeah,
think it was
you and so Shane and Andrew, right, and then Chris and Logan, my guys, they're actually starting private label too, which is
I was just talking to them the other day. He said they're looking for mentorship and stuff. But yeah, I think that first month with you, that was coming right into back to school. And I think we did like 20 or 25K. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is like instant results, and then we just kept that same methodology going. And it's just been uphill from there, really. So.
Yeah. So obviously, like regardless, like the longer you stick with it, you just get better. But what would you say was like the disconnect that you were able to solve?
I think that the confidence in buying products was a really big part of it, right? So like having you there to kind of guide us, like, hey, is this a good ASIN? You know what I mean? Because like we would like, I felt like we were doing well sourcing, right? Like we were finding a lot of products, but we never had the confidence to be like, all right, let's go deep on this one. You know what I mean? It was just having somebody there. It's like kind of went through this already, made a really big difference with that, So
yeah, and that's the big thing is that like so many people like watching this right now, like they want to be successful, selling on Amazon, but they've never even talked to someone else that sells on Amazon.
That makes a big difference for sure.
Naturally, right? And it does make a lot of sense objectively, right? But then it's like, okay, it's the kind of thing where you probably don't know anyone in your small town. I definitely didn't, right? So you have to take to the internet, right? And then there's a big like accountability and, being nervous about putting themselves out there, which I completely get, right? I completely get. Like, so much money sitting behind that, right? Sitting behind the not worrying about what other people think and everything, right? And that breakdown, like kind of what your life looked like selling on Amazon prior versus what your life looks like selling on Amazon now, which is full of like group chats and discords and collaboration and meeting new people, right? And solving problems together, right? Which in my opinion is like really the key to this stuff, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, before we joined, you know, we were grinding it out, just me and Shane. It was more or less just like continuing our regular work hours, right? Like, I mean, we just kind of got home. It's just me and him staring at a computer all night. Now I feel like, you know, we have 8 or 10 people we're talking to on a daily basis. It obviously makes it a lot more fun, right? We're always jumping in and out of sourcing calls. And I mean, it just makes a tremendous difference, man. You know, instead of working all night to find 1 or 2 leads, you're working with 7 or 8 people, and you're working all night to find 8 or 10 leads, you know? So that, I think that the social aspect of things makes a tremendous difference in how you're able to succeed. You know, just meeting some people, talking to people.
Yeah, 100%, right? And the coach program is obviously a great place to do that. Social media, great place to do that, right? But the irony of that, right, is that the more you work with other people, which in many cases costs nothing, you actually work less too, and you avoid more mistakes. Right? Or at least you get a lot more for the time you put in, right? You avoid a lot of mistakes. You find more opportunity. You have a lot more fun, right? And that these are guys you would hang out with if they live down the street, but they live in Arizona and Massachusetts, right? And it just shows how the world works these days, man, right? Like, you know, the device you guys are watching this on, right, has given us tremendous opportunity and leverage if you use it correctly, right? And it takes away a ton of leverage if you use it incorrectly, right? And I think so. It's really just a beautiful thing. And like, what did those initial steps of starting to be more active in the community actually look like? Because most people that have been watching my stuff for a little while, they really get what they should be doing. They're just not quite sure the first steps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm far from like, you know, where I probably should be with social media. I mean, I could be doing it a lot better, right? But we just started reaching out to everybody, man. I mean, on school, you know, and we just started just messaging people. People were interested in talking to and meeting with and setting up calls, right? We started setting up a lot of calls. We set up a small Discord league group and, you know, just started reaching out to people to see if they were interested. Jump on calls with them. You know, if you connect and it works out well, just, you know, continue to work with them. And I think, you know, right now there's probably like 8 or 10 people, you know, that we're frequently talking to. And obviously, you know, new people are always in and out and stuff. Like we definitely haven't stopped networking, but like, I feel like we have a solid group of core people that like, if we have a question, it's going to get answered. Right.
Yeah, bro, 100%. And it just doesn't take that much time to do it. And it's like everyone you see come on these videos, right, is doing it. Everyone on the Buy Box Bandits podcast you hear about, right? The common trait between all successful Amazon sellers is just other Amazon sellers in their life. And one of the really common trends between sellers who are struggling or haven't quite clicked yet, right, is a lack of Amazon sellers in their life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And everything. So it's just a very, very important thing. You know what I mean? So as a part-time seller, talk about the time management side of things, because that's like very, very important. You know what I mean? For especially, you know, for a lot of part-time sellers that have other stuff going on similar to yourself.
Right. I mean, honestly, man, my time management has just been like, do it 1,000% the whole time I'm not at work. Right. Like I don't know, like if I'm not at work, I'm pretty much working at Amazon or working on Amazon. I think jumping on a VA at like 20K, right when we got to about 20K a month, we jumped right into a VA. And I think that helped us out tremendously, right? Like we put a lot of initial time into training her a ton. And like right now there's a lot of stuff I can just pass off to her, which is really convenient. You know, we're looking obviously right now to unload a lot more things. I think our next step is a prep center. For sure.
Sure. I completely agree.
We're overloaded, man. Like in December, I didn't sleep in my bed for 4 weeks in December. Like it was just all products, you know? So yeah, we got to get some of this stuff out of the apartment. And, you know, I think that'll really give us a chance to climb another barrier, you know?
Yeah. Break down the economics of like a virtual assistant and why it's so cheap and makes so much sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, so our VA is from the Philippines, right? So we pay her $4 an hour, I think is the rate we pay her right now. $4 an hour or $5 an hour, which is, it seems like a pretty competitive rate, you know, with everybody I've talked to and everything I've looked at online. And, you know, she likes the work. It's really new to her. It's a chance to learn something. And obviously it's great for us because, you know, we're getting somebody that is excited to learn the job and they're making good money in their country, right? Like it's crazy the difference in like what $4 an hour is there to here, right? So like, you know, and we load her up with bonuses and stuff. Like we gave her a nice fat Christmas bonus of a few $100 and stuff. And, you know, we keep her motivated and keep her willing to learn. And yeah, I think a VA is the thing that we learned though, going through it is definitely got to be quick to swing the axe, like bring them on quick. If they don't work, get a different one. Like that's how we approached it. And it seemed to work out.
What site did you use too as well?
You recommended it. It was the onlinejobs.ph.
Yeah, that's the plug. Yeah, for that stuff. That's really, really helpful. Especially use the and you guys watching, they're looking to do that. Once you get above like 10K a month, it makes sense to look into that.
Dude, it was like 200 applications in 12 hours. Like I got on the next day and I was like, oh my gosh, like I got to go through these now,
Yeah, right. And you add a little caveat to it to make sure they actually read it, like include your favorite color or ask them to send a WhatsApp voice message. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that was a mistake I made going into it, is I didn't do something like that. So dude, we literally just scrolled through these things for hours and hours and hours. And we got it down, like we started making like categories. We're like, all right, we'll call these people A+, these people
that's
A.
crazy. Yeah. So you gotta add that. That caveat knocks out like 80% of the people.
Yeah.
Who can read the whole thing. Yeah.
As
well. So on the sourcing side of things, like what would you say to the newer seller who's like, I just can't find anything profitable? Like what are some tips and tricks you really like to actually create that profit margin?
Definitely. I mean, all the stuff you go through in your courses is really what we use, right? So coupons, discounted gift cards, anything you can dig into and set yourself apart from like, the 100 other people looking at that same page. Like you always say, you're making it profitable, right? Like you just got to really dig into this. And I think learning a couple good sites too, like getting really good at a couple sites is a lot more, like I feel like you do a lot better like that than being okay at 30 sites, right? Like before we joined your program, that was definitely something Shane and I were doing a lot was, like we get a product from here, but we didn't have like a core set of sites we're shopping from, right? And I think over December, like 70% of my spend was like one website.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to be like that forever, but you take what you can get and you scrap, claw, and fight your way to 10 grand a month in profit, which you've done at this point.
Right. And RA was a big thing too. That really, we
love that. Yeah. Explain the big benefits of that. Cause that can seem very tedious from someone who hasn't, cleaned up a lot with it quick. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I talk to people that do really great RA. I'm not like a great RA person, but I found a couple places I like to go that like, if I'm a little bit short on spend, I know I can go there right now and pick up the rest of that spend. Right. I think the way we approached it was, hey, like, let's pick a couple stores and just hit them really hard for a little while and start to see like what products are coming in, what are going out. Once you like learn a store, you can pretty much just walk in there and what's new. You know what I mean? It's those first couple weeks of going in there and just scanning everything that really, it eats up your time and it feels really tedious. But I feel like once you like get a couple stores down and you're going in there a lot, it just becomes a lot more efficient. If that makes sense.
Much like anything. Yeah. But you just got to go through that process though.
Right.
The hard part. So if you could go back to when you were a brand new Amazon seller, what are you telling yourself that would help you, find success a lot quicker besides skip out on wholesale and private label, start with OA and RA from the get-go?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, right? And I think we would have if we just had a lot more confidence in the stuff we were buying, just willing to go a little deeper on things, we would have went a lot faster, right? And I mean, we still have that problem today. Like that's definitely a thing that could scale us a lot faster right now. It's how far do we want to take the credit, right? Like,
sure. Which I completely get. Not
we're finding the products, and it's just like, all right, like the credit bill is getting high. Do we want to take this higher? Or do we just want to level off here for a month, pay it off, and so
very important thing for all you guys.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing if we were to start over though is just make friends right off the bat. Right. Get a group of core people that you can work with and get questions answered. It saves you a ton of expensive mistakes, especially with like the Amazon backend stuff, right? Like getting ungated, section 3s, all that shit that people are just like, it's daunting looking at it. But when you have other people that went through it, it makes a big difference. So I would say, if I had to go back and give myself advice, it would be like make some friends right away. And I think that's it, man.
Yeah, people are out there on Discord, on Twitter, our Facebook group, the Amazon Launchpad too. A bunch of you guys been joining that lately as well and everything. And then, where can people follow you on social media if they want to see more of your journey, which you're doing an excellent job of documenting, by the way.
Thanks, man. I'm getting better at it, right? Like I'm not doing it as much as I should, but I'm getting better, right? I'm working at it. So yeah.
Hey, where can people follow you though? Where can people follow you?
Instagram. I prefer Instagram over anything, right? It's Andy__arbitrage.
So the cool thing is you have a unique case where you finished up college and pretty much had every reason to not go start an online business, like getting going with your first job or two, right? a lot of people will make up the excuse that they don't have time or anything like that. But you're a pretty cool case, man, where in the past couple months, starting out late April, early May, man, you've been able to get to a full-time income on Amazon part-time, right? So what was the profit specifically for August?
I think around 7K is what we had.
Exactly. Right. So absolutely not bad for a new skill that you're starting to learn for yourself, basically. And I remember when you were just getting going, you said it was right around May 1st, basically, right?
Yeah, literally the start of May, I think probably the last week of April, but May 1st, everything started going through.
Because I remember DMing you on Instagram and you were like, I think you had said you were in Southeast PA. I was like, all right, man, let's get to it and everything. I know, I think we even have some mutuals just in real life from the past and everything. But what in general just made you want to get into selling on Amazon?
So I knew about selling on Amazon like before. I just never knew where to start, right? I saw a lot of stuff come up, and you may not know, but Will Riviera was kind of one of the first people I saw on Instagram, and then you came up. And I was like, okay, I've seen drop shipping, I've seen Amazon, I've seen all these online businesses. I'm like, all right, where should I start first? And I think I saw you come up on my Instagram, and that's when I was like, all right, let me see, your videos. I watched your YouTube videos. I kind of like a whole month of studying. And I was like, all right, let me jump into it. And I felt like this was a business where you can grow fast, but also it's like a really good business in general for long term if you do it right. So that's why I kind of decided to get into Amazon.
Sure, absolutely, man. Yeah, so just in general, man, like a lot of people will say they don't have time or whatever, and you absolutely jumped in this. You said you studied a little while just getting into selling Amazon. What was it like just building up that initial momentum and getting those first couple sales? Because you started learning for like a month. Then what was the timeline once you like really got going to starting to get that initial momentum and first sales?
Honestly, I think it was after our first call, right? So you and I had a first call, and I kind of built like more confidence in myself after that. And also you tell me to post more on Twitter and be more active. And that kind of started building my momentum where I started obviously buying more inventory. And the first thing I did was merchant fulfilled, right? So I saw the money turn quick. So that's where I was like, okay, got to keep going. And that's where everything started rising up.
Yeah, and that's the key is you said there's a lot of obviously people talk about this on the internet and everything. There's a lot of kind of conflicting advice. Me personally, I love the idea of starting out small, low risk, building proof of concept, right? And merch fill is a great way to do that, man, right? Because if you're a beginner watching this and you do only Amazon FBA, it's going to take a while for the inventory to actually get to you and then get to Amazon, specifically the one that really takes a while. But with merch fulfilled, once you get it from the supplier, from the website, which only take like 3 to 5 days typically for it to arrive to you, occasionally a little bit more, a little bit less, you can get that listed immediately in your store and actually learn quicker. So not only can you, just get better cash flow and everything, but you can also test your quantities a lot later too. So talk about just kind of further into the merch filled side of things and how that's been really helpful for you.
So recently my cash flow has been insane, right? So I get it. And I list it before it even arrives. So when I see that something's like on the way to my house, I list it before I arrive, and half of the time, half of it sells. And the one thing I've noticed is my cash flow has been really good compared to FBA, because my FBA shipping times have been very bad recently. I think we all know
especially
how like
back to school time,
like,
warehouse.
So like the merchant fulfilled has been a life changer for especially cash flow. Like if you aren't merchant fulfilling, I think everyone should be doing a little bit of merchant fulfilling just for cash flow in general.
Yeah, and it depends specifically what you're selling, because obviously not every listing is going to be merchant fulfilled friendly specifically. So what have you done in terms of like on the product research side of things, as a beginner still, 5-6 months in, man, in terms of finding merchant fulfilled specific products, like what's been the strategy behind that? Because that can be a really, tough thing for beginners.
I think it's mainly the Keepa and also SellerAmp, right? So you look at the data, you see what people are merchant fulfilled, how many do you have merchant fulfilled versus FBA, and that's where you can gauge, do I buy this FBM or FBA? And also looking at your profitability, right? Because there's some items that may be FBM, FBA as well, but FBA, you're making more profit. So it may be smarter to go FBA, but then there's some listings where FBM is more profitable. So you'd go FBM. So that's kind of how I just look at the data and see the listings, how they look.
And the big thing with that is remembering to actually scroll down on SellerAmp and toggle over to the FBM numbers. If you want to, just a quick guide on how to know the specific FBM numbers, if you're watching this, just go to howtofbm.com. There's a little shipping cost for FBM guide for what you're going to put in on the FBM cost specifically on SellerAmp, right? And it's really important in terms of merch filled. An easy way to standardize that as a beginner is just list everything merch filled initially and let the data especially tell you. But like Ashad was saying, you can also see using the buy box statistics on Keepa and then the offer summary on SellerAmp, right? That little panel you can activate, right? Whether or not people are successfully FBMing a product. And if they are, there's a good chance you probably can too, right? Using 0-day handling time and some of the different features that go into that as well. So has it really just been online arbitrage the whole time, or any retail arbitrage, any wholesale, man?
So right now it's been OA, and I just started dabbling in the wholesale, like probably like 2%, maybe 3% into wholesale, but mainly it's been OA. I just love OA because when that sale comes and you have a bunch of capital to run up, you just run up the number, get all the inventory, and it's also like there's no lead time, right? So with OA, maybe takes about a week to get to your house if you're doing merchant fulfilled, and you can instantly list it, as you mentioned earlier, right? And your sales can start rolling the second it comes in. Versus FBA, I mean, in FBA, you send it to your prep center, you take it there, and the prep centers are really fast, right? 24 to 48 turnaround time. So I just like how OA has been because there's no real lead time.
Yeah, well, that was a good point, especially about the lead time side of things, man. Not to interrupt you as well, but like RA, there's literally 0 lead time. You pick it up in store, right? But there's the least scalability. OA is probably the perfect balance for beginners, right? And obviously you can do all three if you want to, right? And then wholesale, longest lead time, longest time for the product to actually get to you, most scalability though, right? And the cool thing is in your case, man, you actually live in, Philadelphia area where I'm from as well, right? Phenomenal location for retail arbitrage if you wanted to do a ton of it. The cool thing is in your case, you haven't really needed to, it sounds like, which is awesome, right? And that's the whole part of doing this stuff is to build skills, meet cool people, make money, and have flexibility. For example, you can go do retail arbitrage if you ever needed to. Sounds like you haven't needed too much outside of some occasional pickup orders and stuff, man, which is another phenomenal method as well, too. So the biggest thing beginners struggle with, right, is product sourcing, product research, man. So what specific kind of tips and tricks or methods have you really used for product research?
To be honest with you, it's mainly trusting the Keepa, right? So you have to look at the velocity and the offer counts and also look at the price. That's all I really look at. And when I see that the price is pretty stable, there's good oscillation in the seller count, that's how I buy. I honestly things.
Yeah, especially on the methodology side of things. Like, you doing like a lot of manual sourcing, or you're like looking at people's storefronts? Like, what's the vibe with that?
I do a lot of storefront stalking. So a lot of storefront stalking, and I kind of learn what websites they're from, and I note that down, right? So I'll storefront stock, see like these items. I'm like, okay, they're not on sale right now. Let me put it on maybe something like a pinger. I forget what it's called, but you can ping certain items on certain websites for when they come on sale. So I do things like that and also put it in my notes. And I'll check it like on a daily basis, like 5-10 minutes, just to see if that product has came on sale or not. If it has, then if I'm profitable, then I'll rip it.
Yeah, and you get a really good gauge over time of learning different retailer sales cycles. Sometimes I'll even open up an item on Safari on my phone and just refresh it from time to time, both for restocks or prior to knowing, a sales cycle for a different retailer specifically, that there'll be some good stuff that comes out of it. Interestingly enough, like one brand that's actually an AutoWingate brand that a lot of the students are doing that are newer, right? They recently ran a big sale. I didn't even know this website had sales, right? But because I was keeping tabs on different stuff, I ended up learning that. Right. In terms of like just kind of restock monitors, there's a couple good ways to do it if anyone's wondering. Some sites will let you put in your email to get notified. I think Shields is one of those. And then there's a couple good ways to get notified of stuff in terms of like when a retailer changes, like the web page essentially. And distill.io is a good one specifically for that. So the key is, man, when you storefront stock, you're going to find good listings, period. You're going to find stuff that sells quick. Now, the hard part tends to be finding those items profitable, right? So talk about from your specific perspective, what are the discounting methods and really just kind of the extreme couponing side of OA that you've specifically found a lot of success with?
Gift cards. Gift cards have been a big game changer for me, where when I started implementing gift cards, I've noticed one, items are becoming profitable, and two, they're becoming more profitable, right? And also we have our cashback extension that's extra money for you right there, right? So you can count that. You don't want to count that in your buy cost, but you want to think of that as, okay, if something happens, I have this as a backup, right? And then also website has their own coupon. Sometimes when you open a website, it'll be like, oh, so put your phone number and we'll give you 10% off your first order. And there's way, as we know, to loop that. So I didn't think like that, things like that.
Yeah, text now specifically is a good way to loop that for anyone who's curious too, as well. And basically the whole idea behind coupons and sales and gift cards is that very few items are going to be profitable at the average price, at the advertised price just sitting on a website. Now, occasionally they will be, but very rarely will be. And if they are, they tend to be way easier to find for newer sellers, leading to more competition and more price tanking, right? Meanwhile, right, if you're paying as little as possible and utilizing gift cards and cash back, not necessarily that you're going to add the cash back and the buy call or the profitability, but it doesn't hurt, right? Coupons and sales, gift cards, I do like to add in specifically right there. It's going to make your life a lot easier too, right? In terms of just making your life easier. So you have a cool, interesting case because you have a remote 9-to-5, a good Amazon business, and you got some other just business stuff going on in general too. So you want to kind of break down what other businesses you have going on, and then way more importantly, like how the heck you manage all the time. You know what I mean? Because that's a big thing. Like, people are like, do I really want to start that side hustle? I feel like I don't got time, right? And as we know, as fellow young kings, we make time for what's important to ourselves, right? But it just in general, man, like tell us about your other businesses and then how you're managing everything.
Yeah, so I also have like a social media marketing agency. So me and two friends work with small businesses in the Philadelphia area, and we honestly just create content for them, right? So we handle their social media pages and we post content for them. That's my other business that I've been doing with my 9-to-5 and Amazon as well. And with time management, honestly, it's best way to put it to you is like, how bad do you want it, right?
Oh,
That's
true.
kind of that's the best way I could put it for you is that, the way I think is like you have to break down your time into certain aspects, right? So if you work out, right? All right, put a certain time in the morning to work out. So you get that, not like you get out of the way, but you work out when you wake up because that's when you're probably like the most, I would say, like focused, in my opinion, like with working out wise. Work out in the morning, I come back, I start my 9-to-5. So I kind of have blocks, right? So I'll work like 2 to 3 hours on my 9-to-5, and then I'll give some time to Amazon, and I'll go back to my 9-to-5, and I'll just have time blocks. Because when you're working on something for straight, 8-9 hours, it's just you can get distracted, right? So having those time blocks to where you're doing one thing at one point for some amount of hours, and then you're hopping onto another, it refreshes your brain. So I go from looking at my corporate job to sourcing. And then, my brain's refreshed now, so I can go back to do my corporate job.
Yeah, and in general too, like obviously I empathize in that we're, young guys with, a big lack of responsibility compared to some people. I completely get that, but either way, all you can do is the best with what you have, right? Personally, on my side of things, I'm a huge to-do list guy, right? The night before, plan tomorrow, today. I heard that from a guy on YouTube a couple years ago and everything, which is really, really helpful too. So talk about what it's been like really seeing big progress over back to school, right? Because Q4 is coming up. Q4 is bigger than back to school, right? But specifically in your case, this was your first kind of big seasonal opportunity. So talk about what you learned the past month or so, seeing demand massively increase as parents are buying stuff for their kids, for soccer season and for getting back to school and everything like that.
Yeah. So I guess one thing I want to point out is my network, right? So I built a core network in my first 2 to 3 months of doing Amazon, and that's really what helped me scale back to school. Because without my network, I don't even think I'd be in this position. So with back to school, it was just buying a lot more inventory than you usually would, right? So like something I think you've mentioned before is like instead of buying 10 of a product, buy 20. Don't buy the 10 that you used to buy because during the back to school or Q4, the item is going to sell faster. So that's another thing I took into account where during back to school, I bought more quantity than I did before. And that's really what helped me scale. Like I think I did double to triple what I did in July. And that's really what helped me grow the past 4 months and also this month as well.
Yeah, and you're still brand new to this stuff, in the grand scheme of things. Like you haven't even been through a Q4 yet. Like my personal advice in terms of anyone watching this, right, where, there's really only 2 ways to grow the business, right? And they work hand in hand, right? But it's sell more of what you're already selling, buy heavier on proven listings, right? Obviously not taking on an unnecessary risk, but once something's proven, right? Or finding adjacent leads and finding more products. So you brought up a good point in terms like figuring out where items come from. Right. The cool thing is most brands, they're either super small brands that only come from the brand website or one supplier, or big brands that come from boatloads of different websites. Right. And they both have their pros and cons specifically right there. But that's, how you build a good arbitrage business in general, too. So you brought up a really good point there in terms like getting in the community, getting around other sellers. Right. What does that actually look like and how do you actually do it? Because that's a, ridiculously important thing that we kind of all know we need to do, but that is, very hard for a lot of people on the networking side of things.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is putting yourself out there, right? So when I first started, I was kind of scared to put myself out there. And I posted a video of an introduction. And after that introduction video, I just met a lot of people through that, right? So it's mainly just like constantly being on what we have Twitter, X, mainly being on that contact, just random cold DMs. I cold DM so many people in the Amazon community just saying, hey, you know, I'm new to the community. You know, I want to build a friendship here. Like, I'm not only looking at a business transaction, right? I want to build a friendship with these people. And that's literally all I've done is just cold DMs, just talking to anyone that you can see that you see. And you're like, okay, I'd like to talk to this person. That's what I've done. And you can probably ask anyone. That's literally what I've done.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they're also, they take a look at your profile and everything. It's really it's fairly counterintuitive when you think about it initially. It's like, all right, like, doesn't really make sense that I would want to talk to my competition. But the key is, like, it's such a big pie and you're just going to have a lot more of a worthwhile time if you find some cool people to work with, which literally it could be in the comments of this video, for example, too, and everything, man. So super impressed with what you've done so far. What type of profit numbers do you think you can do in December? Because that's like the big one in terms of, like, you know, scaling quick. November is going to be a big month as well.
My goal is to do 40K profit in December.
Boom. So that's
Q4 around 60 to 70 is my goal.
Yeah, so that would be around 200K of revenue, right? At the 200K of revenue, 20% profit. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be right in there specifically, right there. So yeah, man, it's time to get after it. Where can people follow you on social media if they want to see more of your journey, man?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm Ashad Rathod, and then on Instagram, I'm Ashad_Rathod.
Super excited, bro. Getting out of back to school. I think you said it was right around $9,000 in profit for August.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just over.
And the cool part is that was the first time eclipsing your previous 9-to-5 salary, which you aren't doing anymore, basically, right?
Correct. Yeah, that was a big number for me. It's been my first goal is wanted to make a mark there and replace the 9-to-5 income, eclipse it.
Yeah, and that's the nice part about selling on Amazon is that I think a lot of people like want to quit their job too soon, essentially. Like some people have awesome, you know, part-time Amazon business as well, like you previously did. I know you're a young guy and you were really looking to, you know, buckle down. I'm sure you'll be able to grow it from here as well. But you want to just kind of take us back to 6 months ago when you were, you know, just getting started. Like what made you get interested in selling on Amazon? How'd you initially find out about it?
Yeah, so I initially found out about it through Money Twitter. I think I found your account. I found Billy Flip's account. Watched some videos. I thought it was super interesting. My little brother was looking into it too. So I wanted something that was location independent because I knew I was about to move. I was going to quit. I hated my job. Hated that. Wanted to leave Chicago. Didn't like that. Want to go back to Minnesota. Turns out there's no sales tax in Minnesota for clothing and things. So it's good for Amazon anyway. So a lot of things lined up for me to go all in on this business model.
Yeah, and we always joke around about Minnesota being like the #1 per capita most successful state for Amazon sellers to come from. We joke around like South Florida, Pennsylvania, Oregon being another one of those as well. And then obviously states like Delaware and New Hampshire where there's no sales tax on anything, you're at a big advantage as well. And then so you learn about it in like the early New Year's, and so your brother's an Amazon seller as well, but you guys do separate accounts, right?
Yeah, separate accounts. We didn't want to combine. We share a bunch of the same products, but I'm like, I think it's too complicated to split an account. I would definitely do different ones.
Yeah, and you were just getting going at different times. You got to obviously just make sure you keep up with Amazon's rules basically as well. So what did it look like initially getting your first sales? Because going from 0 to your first couple sales and even just your first couple sales to consistently getting sales every day, that's typically the hardest part for people. So what did that look like?
Yeah, it was crazy. So my little brother had been selling for like a month or so. He had very little capital, but he had a couple good products. So he hit me up with, I was working remotely and he's like, bro, this just went on sale. These went in restock, buy it now. So I spent like $2,000 or something on this. It was some Nike clothing. And that led me getting, I think 1,000 in sales my first week, which I think I hit you up about. I came into one of the live calls and you're like, dude, you just texted me. How'd you get 1,000 sales? Like what happened?
Yeah,
like,
man.
My brother gave them to me, but there's the importance of networking right there. After that, it was kind of tough, but just trying a bunch of different products, FBM was just learning what's good.
Yeah, and the key is that a lot of the traditional advice is like only do FBA, start with a ton of capital, right? And if you're going to do only FBA, you have to buy typically more product and you get slower results essentially because you don't get as quick feedback. Meanwhile, with Merch Build, like Thomas got started with, like I got started with, you can test really light, right? You can learn really quick and get feedback on different purchases, right? And in your case, you actually got started during the harder time of the year, the earlier half of the year, right? If you're getting started now in August and September, Q4 is right around the corner. So it's going to be significantly easier. And then, so what would you say was the moment when things really clicked? Like you obviously had a great first week, but then that's, you know, a far cry from making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9K a month in profit, right? So what would you say is like the aha moment, if there was one?
Yeah. So My first couple months, my mind was constantly blown. Like when I first started buying, I would buy onesie, twosie shoes and things like that. I remember my little brother and I were like in April or something like, dude, let's go deep. Let's get 5 of these. We're gonna get 5 shirts. We're like, that was crazy. Those never sold. The moment that clicked my mind is I think I went out, bought a product at an RA store. It was like a Marshalls or a Ross, and it sold at like 40 of them, and they sold out that day within 24 hours. So I'm like, oh, okay, I finally found a product that sell 40, 50, 60 a day. Because I thought you needed like 1,000 products that sold like 10 a month or something. No, there are products that sell hundreds of times a day. You just need to find them.
Yeah, and I think that model of like buying a ton of stuff super wide, low quantities makes a ton of sense when you're not the one sourcing them. Because if you have virtual assistants, right, that part's significantly easier right there. But if you're doing the sourcing yourself, naturally, you also tend to be a lot better at sourcing than virtual assistants, right? So you have to find stuff you can go deeper to justify putting the time into it. Basically, on the topic of going deep, you send a ridiculously big shipment. Yeah, that was yesterday you sent that out, right?
I think it was like a week ago or something.
A week ago. Cool.
Yeah.
Got you. So we'll pop it up on the screen here basically, but I saw Thomas. I was like, holy crap. So how many boxes was that? And that's obviously not buying just a couple of stuff, man, right? That's a huge FBA shipment.
No, that was 63.
Boom. So how many units total is that then?
I think it was 3,500 units or something.
Boom. So life changes quick, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. You go from being afraid of buying a couple, which is completely normal, by the way. And I do think is the right way to do it when you're a beginner is test super light, reduce risk. Oh yeah, 100%. Right. And then over time, right, you get some proof of concept, you go through a back to school, or in your guys' case, watching this now, if you're a new seller, you go through a Q4 and you end up making, huge progress fast too. And so another thing obviously is you went from basically, I assume probably an apartment in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And then so moving home to Minnesota and then now actually getting a warehouse space too. So what was the mindset behind getting a warehouse space and why didn't you get a prep center? Why'd you go warehouse instead?
Yeah, I wanted to get a warehouse, went to warehouse over prep center because I knew my cousin. It's sort of complicated.
We love Elijah though, and I'm sure he'll be watching this video. Yeah.
Yeah. Elijah was selling on Amazon too. It's another part of the reason I started. So I saw him absolutely smash it Q4, like 3-4 months in, have a great Q4, go full time and keep just selling so much too. I'm like, okay, if he can do it, that's my cousin. I can work in the same warehouse as him. There's no reason I should be able to do this too.
The key is you don't know him. You didn't know him super well. That was like the weird part there. It's like, it's interesting context. I remember when you told me that, I was like, holy crap. Yeah.
I just followed him on Twitter and was commenting on his posts. And then suddenly the same day, my little brother and him, they both like messaged me the same day, like Elijah DM'd me like, hey, no, this is weird, but I'm married to Rex's stepdaughter, like my aunt's stepdaughter. It's like, what? No way. At the same time, my brother's like, bro, Elijah is actually kind of our cousin. That's
Exactly. Right. But what's that been like just kind of getting around like other Amazon sellers on a day-to-day basis? So I always talk about doing it digitally. You've done a phenomenal job in person too, right? With Lucas, Elijah, obviously your brother, you're lucky to have that too. Like what's that been like being able to just get around other people on the mission?
Yeah. So online starting out was super important. I think it's super important to network with people when you're first starting and in the future food. It's especially important when you're first selling. I had no context of what people were buying, how much they were doing, what they were doing every day. What do you do every day? So it's super useful to talk to people like my friend Sean. Like I met him through my other friend Ashad. Like I was just cold DMing people like, hey, you want to get a call? Me and Ashad instantly clicked. Like he was a super great guy.
Yeah, shout out to Ashad, man, for sure. I just met him in person for the first time recently, a couple times, past couple months.
Sick, nice. Yeah, he's a great guy. But he like introduced me to his friend Sean. He's like, bro, remember that shoe you sent me? I bought like 4. Sean bought like 150. So that like blew my mind about how deep people are going. And like, it just adds context to what successful Amazon sellers are doing.
Yeah, naturally, because you're probably not going to find people at your job or that you previously know, like you luckily did, Thomas, right? That do Amazon, that do online business, right? So you have to go online and find those people, at least in my opinion. It's been a big thing I always preach here. And it's just a cool thing that, if you guys have watched a couple of these videos here, everyone that comes on the buy box band, it's just like, yeah, like, I don't know, my friends and I, like the products look good, we just buy them. And it is ridiculously more complicated than that. But the key is that when you're an experienced seller after 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, it does get a lot more simple naturally, because when you're a newer seller, you have to learn to qualify products, different coupons for different websites, how to order them correctly, how to get them listed, how to ship them to Amazon, how to do customer service. But when you're an experienced seller like Thomas is at now, all you have to do is click buy on the product, and everything else comes a little bit more second nature to you. So what was back to school like? Because obviously that's your first experience having like one of the big seasons. Q4, which is coming up for anyone who's unfamiliar, is October 1st to December 31st. It's the best time of the year when there's a ton of holidays going on. How are you preparing for Q4, and what'd you learn during back to school?
Yeah, so I learned for back to school, obviously you and a bunch of other people were telling me some of the good back to school products. I learned I didn't take full advantage of that during back to school. My numbers didn't like double or anything or spike during back to school. That was partly because I ran out of capital and partly because I missed time buying some sort of things. But I learned there would be a massive spike in interest in anything that has to do with back to school, pencil cases, backpacks, things like that. And you can definitely, I got a little practice this time. I know the move is online order to store pickup, to in-store pickup. So I got to do a little bit of that during back to school, just sort of get the wheels moving. I'm going to be doing a lot more for Q4.
And it's significantly harder though when you hadn't been through one of those times though, right? You hadn't ever picked something up and sold it at FBM the same day, right? You hadn't been able to experience what it looked like seasonally here. So just actually, because you kind of said you didn't go as do as well during back to school as you wanted to, like break down kind of what you learned and what you're going to do differently this Q4 for anyone who's going into their first one.
Yeah, I want to talk to Elijah and like other sellers who have more experience and sort of game plan it out more. I just kind of went into it. Oh, I think
what other choice did you have? You're a new, you know, it's your first time doing it. That's exactly how I feel about my first time too.
I could leverage, like I know people who have been through it before, and I should reach out to them and say, hey, what should I do? What's the move? When should, like, cutoff dates, strategies, things like that, and ask around, like, what would you have done differently your first time?
So obviously product research is by far the hardest part of doing this. It's like all the results come to the people who can, get good at product research. So obviously what we're doing is we're finding good products on big retail websites and making them profitable. What's some specific product research stuff you've used that's been super effective that maybe you didn't think about when you were coming into it, or that you've adopted over time that's made a big difference?
I think using Keepa and Seller Amp to just go all in on storefront stocking. That's all I do now. It's just storefront stock. People carry the best brands. They carry the best products. They're waiting for you out there. You just need to get through enough storefronts to get them. And then once you find the good storefronts that have the good brands, I like to bounce back and forth between like using Keepa to go through every good listing on a brand. And then once you find a good product that's a weird brand you've never seen before, that's great. Look up that brand. There's going to be more products in that brand. And then once you find another one, bounce back to the storefront and go back and forth.
I think it's really underrated to the idea of looking up adjacent products, or just looking at like the Amazon recommended that's like under the product as well, typically under the Keepa chart too. Because if you think about it, right, if like, say, for example, like Carter's, the clothing brand's doing well or whatever, right? There's tons of examples of brands that do well, right? And then it's just looking at, okay, those are clearly validated products. The sellers that carry those products are going to have other stuff as well. So obviously I was talking to Elijah about this when we did our podcast with him too, but you're pretty much just online and retail arbitrage right now, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No wholesale yet. No.
And what's the thought process on not having done that, right? Because obviously you're probably just super busy with OA again, going with that. But back in the day, man, no one used to think you could do more than what you're doing, or even what you're doing just with online arbitrage specifically.
Okay. I didn't know that. I would say, okay, everybody says they want to add wholesale to their business. I was talking with Eli a little bit about it. Like, you just want to add it in bits. Don't want to transition completely to wholesale. I have momentum going OA. I don't feel like I've hit a cap with OA. And people like Jeff Senza and Sam FBA show that you can get to $300, $400 million months with just OA. You don't need wholesale. That being said, I'd like to add it in. I think it's a good component to add into your business. That's it. I haven't tried it yet. So that's the plan, to add in wholesale going forward. But I'm still doing 60K with OA. I can keep doing 60K with OA and even more in the future.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense, especially with where you're at right now, just to keep going full speed ahead with OA. And then once we're in January, when OA slows down immensely, right, then it makes sense to start to mix some of that stuff in too. So as you've been growing up the business, the past 6 months or so, still being a really, really new seller, what are some mistakes you made in the process?
Definitely. I don't feel like, so start off with FBM. FBMing first is important. But then once I didn't, this is a little weird, but I didn't transition to FBA quick enough. Once you find a good product, it'll sell more FBA. So there was a while there, I was just only doing FBM. That's super important. But then eventually, like, start doing FBA. Like, it was like I didn't add in doing FBA until like July or something. Like, should test products FBM, but then add it more FBA.
Yeah, because you're going to get a lot more scale. Stuff's going to sell quicker, so therefore you can buy more of it too, even if you have to wait for check-in times. But once you're good at buying, you don't really have to worry about like kind of validating stuff initially, so you can go heavier. However, in my opinion, right, you only want to like you increase your purchase quantities just proportionally from test orders, right? As you get proof of concept, like holy crap, that did way better than I expected.
Right.
And everything, right? So you pick up on that over time too. So it's pretty cool how you've been able to go. Like, what was your career prior to selling Amazon?
I graduated college in 2023, and I went to a super boring management job in Chicago. Paid pretty well, but I did not like it at all.
I was gonna say like 9K a month. That definitely wasn't bad for being a recent graduate and everything. But the cool thing is in this case, you've been able to put in a ton of really hard work. So now you don't have to do that, right? As long as you continue to do what you do. And with Amazon, it's more scalable too. In that if you keep working hard, staying consistently, working with the boys, you're gonna be able to grow far beyond that too. If really get after it as well. So if you could go back 6 months or even like to January when you haven't even started yet, and you could tell yourself stuff that you think would help, a lot quicker. What are you telling, younger Thomas or any new sellers who are in your DMs right now on Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, it's way more simple than you think. There's like all the advice is to lead you to a track. Once you get in the track of thinking of product research, of finding the right brands, it's way more simple than you think to scale up. It's just, I think like the 90% of the anguish I was feeling really bad or lost is because you think it's unknown, it's invisible. You don't know what the right things are to do. That's why you talk to other people. That's why you talk to experienced sellers, because they know what to do and they'll tell you exactly what to do. And it's just actually doing it and getting good at it. There's no super huge secret or anything.
Oh, zero. It's just doing the work, right? And the key is we can all agree what a good keep a chart looks like, right? We can all agree what a fast selling product looks like, right? The money is in the details of knowing how to discount different websites and having cool people to work with on the stuff too, like you've done a great job of. And then eventually just, consistently aggregating the right information, waking up every day and working on hard. And then, so you've done a great job of just building your following on Twitter too. That's why I saw that, that gigantic picture of boxes right there, man. Where can people follow you on Twitter?
Oh, sure. It's at TRohlader, TROHLADER on Twitter.
Cool. And the cool thing is you can see Thomas's entire journey, the entire thing. Like, when did you start posting on Twitter every day?
Oh man, I think it was April.
Yeah, pretty quick.
I saw
exactly.
School one day, like, if you need to do the 90-day video thing, or you're gonna you need to do that. I'm like, okay, if I really want to succeed at this, I'm gonna do everything that you say. So I did.
Yeah, well, and obviously that's not necessarily necessary, but it does really help. Getting around other people on the mission. So cool. Appreciate you coming on, Thomas. What do you think is a good profit target for December specifically?
December, I want to do 50K profit, I think.
Got you. So what you got to do is you got to take your average profit per unit, increase it by 20% on average about, right? Maybe 30%, right? And then divide 50K by that. Then you know how many units you got to sell. And now you know exactly what you need to do right there. And that goes for any of you guys watching this.